one. So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to RantCast, episode 33. I am your host, the magical Mr. Mephisto, the man with every opinion unlocked, achievement unlocked. Tonight I'm actually joined by two guests from the Wide World of Wargaming podcast. On my left, should hopefully be your left as well, I've got Garret, and taking up the middle of the screen. Well, Garret, say hi to everybody. Let them get to
Howdy,
you.
everybody.
And in the middle here, we've got John.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Let's get this thing started off right.
Oh,
There we go.
So for those of you listening that might be listening back, he just poured a proper whiskey into a tumbler with the ball of ice. Actually, I have those myself. So what are you drinking tonight, man?
I'm enjoying a little St. George's single malt whiskey from St. George's Distillery up in Alameda.
Ooh, sounds tasty. So
It is tasty.
So
It is a really cool distillery, actually. It's in a hangar. That's the one that's in a hangar on the airstrip outside Alameda Bay, right?
Yeah, the former Alameda Naval Air Station. In fact, when I was in the service, I flew out of there on a C-5 up to Washington, and our airplane actually lost an engine on the way up to Washington. We had to make an emergency landing in Portland. That was the first time I ever went to Portland.
Oh my god, of course.
So you guys are kind of spread. You're spread out a little bit. You're not both. I got the sense that some of the podcasters are very much West Coast, but you are on the East Coast. Garret.
Yeah, about 3 years ago, my wife got a job out near Washington, D.C., so I moved from California out towards D.C.
So you made, and through the magic of the internet, you've maintained your
Yeah, exactly.
Right on. And G-Dad, man, I can't say kick the tires and light the fires. I'm fairly certain Doom and Darkness has that trademarked, and every time I would say that, I'd owe him like 25 cents or $25 dues. I don't know the conversion rate on that. So we're already like you drinking the whiskey right there, John, helps us
Absolutely.
come in hot immediately about, I think, the most important meta in Age of Sigmar right now, which is the whiskey meta.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, as you know, most of the top players enjoy whiskey, as it were. I know you weren't able to make it out there last year for the BAO, but I'm also the TO for the Age of Sigmar portion of the Bay Area Open by Frontline Gaming there. And I think every 3 or 4 tables during the BAO, we had some sort of a bottle on the table. And of course, Mr. Jeremy Vessier with a beautiful bottle of Japanese whiskey the whole time. And then somebody actually had a pony keg in the corner, one of those old growlers. So you had your choice of growlers or whiskey. Needless to say, it was a great tournament.
Wow. See, that's that. So you've already put one of my fears of like coming out to that sort of tournament region to bed, which is like, will I be allowed to drink at the table? Because if I can't drink and throw dice, probably my heart's not in it.
Well, games take too long if you can't get something to speed up those decisions a little bit.
That's right. Like lower the inhibitions and get that sort of fuck it, I'll take the 12-inch charge that I shouldn't sort of mentality going to really have some fun.
That's right. After 3 whiskeys, you either think you made it or don't care.
There you go. So you did so John, you actually did the shoutcasting at LVO this past go. This was your first time shoutcasting.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, so out here on the West Coast, Scott Reed is the TO for like the SoCal Open and the LVO, plus a lot of events in Southern California. And he and I began running events about the same time in the second year of Age of Sigmar.
Okay.
So we've always had a big connection of attending each other's events, sharing tournament packs, tournament concepts, scoring concepts. And he came up to the Winter War that I ran in December, and while he was up here, he said, "Hey, by the way, John, would you be interested in doing the shoutcast for the Age of Sigmar at the LVO?" And I said, "Well, maybe. Let me check with something." And so I immediately got hold of my partner, Garret, here and said, "Hey, Garret, I've been asked if maybe I would do the shoutcast, and I myself am only interested in doing it if you're going to be my partner."
Right.
And
I
so
think what
Garret
you
said, "Let me
actually
get back to
said...
you." Is it? What were your exact words when I?
Well, I think what you said is you put into our little group chat with the Wide World Wargaming. You were like, Scott asked me if I wanted to do the shoutcast, and I'm looking for somebody to join me. And I was like, John, you mean me, don't you?
Yeah. And then you said to me, you go, well, I want to play, and I said back to you, yeah, right.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Right. So for those of you tuning into RantCast here, the way this episode actually came to be was Garret, somebody tagged me saying you were going to do the shoutcasting.
Yep, that's my boy
LVO.
Sergio.
Yeah. So Sergio tagged you and said I should have you on RantCast and we could talk about shoutcasting. I went, awesome. I used to shoutcast esports. You know? So I'm like, oh yeah, man, this is really cool. We could have like a little counterpoint talk about how shoutcasting Age of Sigmar is different from my experiences shoutcasting some fighters and MOBAs and shooters and stuff like that, and we can really get into it. And then of course you leave your buddy hanging high and dry, and we have to call it audible.
Yeah, and not just Garret. I mean, Garret. Well, we could talk about that as much as we want, but also there was another person, Adon Tejada, was also supposed to join me of the Lords and Heroes podcast, and he unfortunately fell ill. He was letting us know before the event that he was ill, ended up being hospitalized, and never made it to the LVO. So going into the LVO, looking at 8, games of streaming, I had come up with a schedule that had nobody doing more than 2 games a day, allowed for some breaks, allowed for me to start late on Sunday so I could, get my whiskey on Saturday night.
Right. Whiskey meta.
And, none of that happened. So I'm like, okay, so it's me. And luckily, Scott had another guy there by the name of Roger. So Roger came and joined me. Great guy out of Missouri, I guess. And we got along great. And so he helped me out for a few of the casts, but he kind of had his own thing. Unfortunately, he was in a wheelchair because of some foot surgery. So it was kind of limited how much he could get around and stuff.
Right. So you couldn't really exactly have man on the street style coverage of him like wheeling around the tables, and no, not quite.
No.
This is actually this story here actually really parallels one of my stories when I was getting into shoutcasting. I have a friend who's his handle is Mr. Eggroll on the internet. Like I ended up like solo casting a day too, like sweating and was like, oh god, like I'm running the tournament and I'm shoutcasting, which is I don't care what the game is. Shoutcasting is kind of in and of itself a job. And if you compile that with the actual tournament organizing, which is a job, like it gets really overwhelming. And so luckily my partner Molly, or Lulu as she's known often to the stream, Lulu was there to like kind of back me up on like the logistics of pairing and bracketing, and we had some software that helped us do the bracketing and stuff. So I taught her on the fly how to input all that. And the gentleman who had been playing came up and he's like, "Hey man, you need help shoutcasting," and he just happened to be great at it, like great at it, because the guy who was going to help me shoutcast got pulled to go run the Street Fighter and Pokemon. Like Pokken or whatever the fuck it was tournament.
Okay.
And so we just like, it was just weird. And so like this guy I have contact with to this day. Every now and then when I fall off the wagon and play another League of Legends game, like I'll group up with my buddy, and so it's kind of cool how you can have these sort of like moments of like kind of disaster and in something really great. And so.
I think that's what happened there. I mean, honestly, I think Garret and I would have been an amazing team up there. But the other side of it is Garret and I were really talking. We were like, okay, so we're kind of tactical analysis focused.
So you got
commentators.
And
so we're like, yeah, how much can we really say, and how much can we point these out? But none of that was moot, because when I'm sitting there at that table doing the shoutcast, the one thing I can't see is anything that's happening on that table. Like unless the players are telling me the score, the turn, I have no idea what's happening on that table. So there was no chance that we were going to give up any secrets by what we were doing.
Right, yeah. Also, unfortunately, the way the stream was set up, the shoutcasting desk was actually really close to the table. So one of our initial concerns was like, if we talked too loud about like saying something, we didn't want to like give away a tactic or tell a player how to play the game. And so we were kind of like really cagey going in originally, like how much are we able to say? Like, because I prefer a shoutcast where you have more commentation, maybe less of the players. But like in this instance, I don't know how possible that would have been given the setup. Because unfortunately at the LVO, the 40K kind of took precedence, and so the GW was streaming the 40K stream, 40K, and so they kind of they kind of were able to take up more of the real estate, and so we were given the space. We got a good space, but it was not as. We didn't get like a shoutcasting desk over to the side where we can then see things separately. We were kind of given what we got.
Right. Yeah, and it wasn't too bad, but like you said, yeah, there was just no way I could see what was happening. But on the other hand, realizing that, I coached the players before every game, and I really talked to them. I emphasized that, hey, when we're playing Age of Sigmar on the live stream, we want to emphasize the above table game. I want to see gentlemanly behavior. I want to see you guys declaring what your roles are, what you're going for. I want to see you pointing things out to each other. And most importantly, I want to hear you guys talking to each other. I want to hear banter back and forth. I want to hear jokes between you. Mm-hmm. And every one of my pairs of players stepped up, and you listen to the live stream, the players were talking nonstop through all the games. And really, it wasn't much for me to say. In fact, if I wanted to say something, I had to literally turn down the player's mic so I could talk instead of them.
Yeah. See, that's actually one of the things I heard you say is like you teaching them to declare intent. Declare intent. This is just a great practice in the game of Age of Sigmar. It covers everybody's butt, quote unquote, playing by intent. It's useful, and it's funny that it's useful for a shoutcast, because the worst thing for a shoutcast is gasp, dead air, like that. You never want dead air, right? So teaching them to like the players to essentially become your dead air filler that's just good practice. But also, you're teaching them to play the game of Age of Sigmar a little bit better. I want to circle back to this above the table play concept real quick. So Garrett, while you left your buddy hanging high and dry, what were you doing at LVO? What was your capacity there? Because you weren't. Scott, read the TO. What were you doing there?
I was doing a lot of stuff for the entire LVO as a whole. So I was helping run tech support for BCP throughout the event. All the game systems, 40K, Kill Team, Age of Sigmar. And then I was also being kind of an interim judge for Scott. I was given a judge's shirt so I can walk around and do table judging, and just kind of being a presence to be around. My work stuff did pull me away that I wasn't able to dedicate a 2-hour period to the stream. I kind of had a lot of intermittent, maybe half hour there, 30 minutes, so I was never able to do the shoutcasting, but I was able to be around and just be helpful to everybody at the con in general.
Right on.
Yeah, and you did hung out with me for a little bit too.
Yeah, every now and then I come check in with John and be like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Check in on the stream, make sure everything's going good. I'd help for the first couple of rounds. I did help John find people to stream. We decided like, okay, what armies look good? What do we think will work out? What players do we want in there? So I did help John with that. And yeah, so I kind of just doing my normal stuff whenever I go to conventions and not play, where it's like I just am a able-bodied hand that can help out and then provide tech support as needed.
Well, that's actually...
I would say, Garrett, that you were literally the only person going into the LVO that thought there was a chance you would actually get to play.
Yeah, probably. Probably, yeah.
See, that's interesting, because you're on the tech side. You are like, you're the architect of one of the software apps they use, right, Garrett?
Yeah, I basically do everything except for the Android development. Right
on. So one of the questions I actually had was, how did you go about picking featured matchups? Because I know from when I would TO, we would usually pick the best seeded at the event to be like, this is our feature matchup. But we would bump those feature matchups if there was a rivalry. So if there's like a rivalry about, you got to put the rivalry on camera.
So The fun thing about Age of Sigmar is that, especially in the early rounds, the seeded matchup is not always a great matchup,
Right.
because you could end up getting a top tier player playing someone who happened to win round one, and it's just a blowout game.
Right.
And so that's really bad content. And so usually what you do for the first 3 rounds is you try to find good looking armies that might be in the middle of the brackets, or like what would be a good person on the stream, because that's the other thing.
Interesting people.
Mm-hmm. That's the other thing is, since the stream has a lot of visuals to it, and this is a very visual game, try to find armies that you think will pop well on the camera and just look good and be fun for everybody to look at and watch.
And this is where Natasha Thomas's IDK came in. This is a stunning looking army, and you wanted that on camera.
And she ended up winning best painted at the tournament, actually. So it was like, I'm really glad that we were able to pick her to be on round 2, because like her army was gorgeous. Like we saw her and we had to find an alternate. And we're like, because the other thing, what we did is, because we don't know, we picked their matchups before we knew what their opponent would be. So we'd pick one person, and then we would check after pairings were generated, who are they playing? And if they're playing somebody who doesn't have the best of looking armies, or this is not going to be a good matchup, we had an alternate that we would then try to see if they would have a better matchup that we could stream.
Okay. And you didn't mess around with the pairings of the brackets.
We decided to just pick one person and then see who they're playing, see if it's okay, and then go forward.
I see.
Which
Right.
everyone there ended up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was actually offered that some minor changes could be made, but you got to understand that Garret and I take pairings and aspects of tournament very seriously, and would not want to be involved with anything that could be construed as skewing anything.
Yes.
So just keep
stay
it
away
above
from
the
it.
board.
That's where we would do we stuck to our random seeding. We had to, from when I was doing a lot of these. I had a 300 person League of Legends tournament. You can't fuck with that. You have to obey the seedings, because you'd end up with I wonder if there's a challenge like this in your tournament scene, but in League of Legends you could see people's ranks. So what people would do is, as soon as they get their pairings, they whip out their phones, they start looking up each other's summoners, check the ranks, see that somebody's got the challenger jungle or the challenger AD carry, and just start perspiring, because this it's and then they'd start because you're going into at a lot of the tournaments I would run, this is not the LCS or the national level event. This is Midwestern tournament scene at Anime Milwaukee or Yumacon, where they have insanely great fighter scene. These are kind of blind metas. Regional players know each other, but you come into this big event where there are cash prizes, which is something I pray we stay away from in Age of Sigmar. It would pull in people from anywhere. You're going into a blind meta, and the only thing you have is the app checking people's rankings. Do you see any of that happening where people whip out the you'd be like, oh, am I playing against the guy with this many ITC points or whatever it is?
No.
Well, you got to remember that people are whipping out things because they're pulling out the app and they're looking at lists and probably performance, I think.
Okay.
But as far as worrying about rank, I think that the top players are well known.
Right.
And if you're not one of those top players, you maybe don't care. One small fun thing when we're talking about picking the players is, Garret, do you remember how we told the people who was going to be on the live stream?
Going into this event, we were Scott decided to use the ITC Code of Conduct, which is issuing yellow cards for bad behavior and possibly a red card for getting kicked out of the event. There was actually a red card issued on the 40K because the guy got 3 yellow cards and he was kicked out. So we were using that, and you got a yellow card if you submitted your list after the deadline. There was a couple ways to get yellow cards. And so John decided he actually brought plastic yellow and red cards. And as they were playing, so at the end of round 1, we went over to Natasha's table and slapped down a yellow card. And then it's oh, don't worry, you're just going to be on the stream next.
This is on the live.
No. Oh, so you were gaming. Oh, I see. You're sort of joking on or riffing on the yellow card system.
Yeah, it was fun.
I guess I want to rewind a little bit, and we can, anytime shoutcasting is pertinent, bring it up by all means. But I don't know a whole lot about LVO personally. I'm the person you're talking to, and in teaching me, we will teach a bunch of people listening to RantCast. about LVO and how it's run. Where are the soft scores in? How does LVO handle their soft scores? Because it does seem like a devalue the soft scores a little bit more of a UK vibe. I get that from the internet.
So actually, Scott did. So what they do is they give out different prizes for different awards. So you have your best painted for just a painting award. They have the best sportsmanship for the person who has the best sportsmanship. They have the best generalship award, which is the one that is more prominent and paid attention to. But there is a Renaissance Man award, which is the best combination of all of them. And he set up his soft scores to use his soft scores, his paint scoring metric and his sportsmanship scoring metric, and he made sure that 50% of your Renaissance score was a combination of your paint and sportsmanship.
So this is a separate category. If you showed up to LVO, you're like, I want to play for the Renaissance score. You had
you could do that, and that is 50% of the Renaissance Man is paint and sportsmanship. I think it was like 75% of that 50% was paint, and then the other 25% was sportsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like, so there's a total of 100 possible battle points. And so using his rubric for the paint, he did the math to multiply his paint scores and his sportsmanship scores to make it so that they equated to 50% with a 75-25 breakdown between them.
Okay.
And as far as, awards, the Renaissance Award is as good as the best general award. You get just as good of a trophy, you get just as good prize support. Same thing with best paint and best sportsmanship. They are all equivalent under the eyes of Frontline Gaming. They all believe all of those awards should be given the same amount of prize support and effort. It's just people tend to pay attention to the best generalship, since that is what people are looking for at a competitive tournament.
Well, we see this common thread throughout, I think, just Age of Sigmar commentary in general, like the common parlance, the shared lexicon we talk about this game in tends to be competitive. Even like we talk about competitive, just like all the talking heads, a lot of the podcasters. I mean, there are certain absolutely exceptions, and like Doug 2 Plus Tough is a fantastic exception. But like usually it's like when we talk about just something, it's almost always in this unit is good because competitively it's good, not because it looks great out the box and it's a fantastic stuff, right?
But you got to figure that nobody, or I should say everybody, is competitive as soon as the dice roll. Like, I don't care how narrative, fluffy, I don't want to play hard you say you are. The moment you roll dice, you're competitive. Don't lie to me.
I could see some disagreement there. I think I will agree with you on that. If there is a game with a win condition, at the very least, people are cognizant of the win condition.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
I think I sort of disagree with John on that, but it's all I could also agree is you are competitive for your win condition. Like, I mean, I've played around with the narrative guys at Nova who run the narrative tournament, and it sounds awesome. And honestly, the people there, their goal is to win the best narrative. They will say, screw that. I'm not going to make this optimal charge because I'm going to go kill Gortrek.
Right.
And they will chase down a rabbit hole to go do that. But that's their win condition, is to kill Gortrek.
Right.
And so they're super competitive about making sure they kill Gortrek.
Oh yeah, like if you're playing Khorne, for instance, and you just go hero hunting, and that becomes your win con for the game, is to kill
exactly. I don't think everybody goes
and says, "Man, I hope I miss with all of these. Oh darn, I caused wounds and hits."
Yeah, John is right that as soon as dice are being rolled, everyone is competitive. But I think there is a difference in what you are competitive about.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different goal in mind, which is that's where not everybody is looking to win match play missions. That is not what we mean by everyone becomes competitive. We mean nobody actively tries to lose. That's what John means by everyone becomes competitive.
Yeah, and even on the flip side of that, like, you say you're playing against a new player or teaching somebody, even then, I might not be trying to win, but I am actually trying to prevent or give them that a little bit of tension,
you need them
a little bit
learn.
of stress, and you need them to learn. So there's still a goal that you're going for, even if your goal isn't the quote win on the table. For me, in those cases, the win is that the person I'm teaching had fun and
they learn the game. Yeah,
and maybe we're challenged a little. Like, you don't want to just throw the game so that they don't learn.
Well, they don't learn anything.
Challenge,
you don't learn that. You don't learn the game that way is the problem. No, I think this comes back to like one of my core philosophies about Age of Sigmar is like we are a social game. We're one of the most social games out there, and we do have a strong competitive scene. We have the power to set our expectations of gameplay. Obviously, at the LGS, this is probably where it's the most pertinent, I think, because I know my people at an LGS. I know, hey man, you want to go play Saturday, and then that next step is like, I want to test my Bone Reapers, or I'm trying out this new tech for my list, or I don't know, man, I just want to throw dice. I've had a bad week. Like, setting that expectation of what type of game you want is really important in this game. Now, I feel when you go to a tournament, that expectation is sort of automatically set by the nature of the game.
Exactly. Yeah. Like a tournament, you are signing up for a competitive event where the goal is to win the event like from a winning the missions point of view, and the mission packet sets those win conditions, right? Which I think the player packet is the most important thing, because certain events will be a tournament, but they will set the win conditions to be, you need to have a well-painted army, you need to be a good sport. That could be the win conditions of the event, which means that is your goal. You need to have the best painted army, you need to have the best sportsmanship, and win best in missions. If that is what that's what the tournament guidelines have set as the win condition, everyone is set towards that win condition.
I agree with Tomb King Tristan here. He likes the fact that you have a fort with a dog in it. This looks like a puppy.
This is my 11-week-old little puppy that I'm raising.
The land shark, as you called him.
Yes, the little land shark. I have to have a little fort because puppies wander, and
and he just goes out and just chews like a newsy hat that you have laying around or something.
He's destroyed two $70 Apple computer chargers already. Yeah, back to back. Like, literally, he destroyed it on Friday, drove over, got a new one Friday, and then he destroyed it Saturday morning. So I had to go Saturday and get a new one. It was bad. It was like, oh my god.
He's got the taste.
No, he's got the taste for blood. No, my good evening, Buckets. Welcome to Chat Gang. My puppy, Corey, she's like 12 years old now, but when she was a puppy, it was Xbox 360 controllers. She didn't chew up my PlayStation 3 controllers. She went after the Xbox controllers specifically every time. I'm just like, all right, I get it, but I don't think the console wars are real. I own both of them. Clearly, I'm
she picked a side.
She picked but my corgi, she picked a side.
And it's not only puppies, because Garret and I both had some tragedy over the summer with our pets, and so I myself, just a small story is I had a Cane Corso that I had full protection training. I had it for 10 years, very high end training with this dog, so great animal. Had to put her down, fortunately, to bone cancer over the summer, and so it was a big loss. And I decided that I myself wasn't going to get a new puppy until after the LVO, when I had time to commit to the training, like the type of training that I like to engage in with a dog, right? But we get into October, and my wife's like, hey, man, I think I want a dog now. And I looked at her and I go, I don't ask your permission before I buy a new Age of Sigmar army. So if you want a dog, that's on you, right? And she's like, well, yeah, but I don't want a puppy. I want to avoid having it chew on stuff and all those hassles. So we go down to the shelter. We rescue a beautiful 95-pound American Staffordshire Terrier, bring him home, 5 years old, great dog, already knows a bunch of verbal commands, seems great. And then the first day, chews up about half the living room when we went to work.
Well, that's that anxiety.
He's in the house by himself for more than a couple hours. He finds something to gnaw on. I'm like, oh,
crate training, man.
I guess we didn't avoid that.
Crate training.
No, we have we have two dogs. We have our Corgi and we have our Weimaraner. Our Weimaraner cannot be left alone. He's just like he's. If anyone knows anything about the Weimaraner breed, they're very pack loyal. He's the dumbest dog I've ever met. But because he wants to be a human and be part of the human pack, he's very good at emulating the behavior. So he'll sit on a couch with his his ass on the couch and his his paws on the floor, he's sitting like a human, because he's just copying us. And but he'll still he goes for a walk and he'll run through a fence and just like knock himself unconscious and just like okay, so
that's great.
But
Yeah.
first rabbit hole of the night. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cheers.
He is cute though. What a cutie. Don't give him that beer though.
No, he already has problems with his decision making. So
he looks like a whiskey dog to me anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean he's got the W in the name anyway, the Weimaraner.
Right.
No, so we started out talking about the whiskey the whiskey meta, but I want to talk a little bit about the wide world of wargaming. Obviously you two have some serious camaraderie.
Sure.
That how did your podcast begin, and then how did that take you into LVO, to where you end up in this position to shoutcast and stuff like that?
Let me start with this one, Garrett, and then I'll let you kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it. So
okay,
this story starts, I want to say 6 years ago, when
so
Garrett,
just before Age of Sigmar, for perspective, this would be
exactly. Garrett and the rest of the Left Coast Corsairs that year each won Best of Factions in 40K. And that was the year that I won Best Dark Angels in the ITC as well. And I saw the Left Coast Corsairs standing together with their Best of Faction trophies, taking a team picture. And there I am standing by myself with my Dark Angels trophy. And I said, you know what? That's the team that I should be part of. And I already knew about half the guys on the team, and ladies actually. And so I went up and said, hey, I want to be on your team. Took about 3 months to get me voted in. I think I was actually voted in.
This is serious business. This is like this is a real club now. Oh shit! Like all right. So voted in. Anyway, continue.
So I'm voted in. So that's the past. So then Garrett and I, good friends for many years, teammates, competing in 40K. When Age of Sigmar came out, we were both burnt out on 40K for different reasons. That was the year that at Adepticon, some famous players got busted for some cheating. And the concept of cheating at a major event by a top player, I just can't even fathom. It's like, are you kidding me? It's like putting a cheat code into a video game. Why play the video game if you're going to use a cheat code?
If I may, I think there's a gentlemanly quality to our game that I think you could do cultural studies on the Age of Sigmar player mentality, because they're a different caliber of player. I often think of them like having the like snifters of brandy or glasses of or tumblers of whiskey in hand.
Yes.
You know, with the little cue pushing their minis around, like capital move, chap, capital move, and like them taking a sip. You know, they have this inherent like
gentlemanliness,
kindliness, like I don't know what it is, sense of fair play, and there's a stigma around 40K bringing their cheaty face cheaterness into our game or whatever, and so like, but even so, there's no massive prize pool even for 40K, so I don't know why people would cheat to try to win a literal trophy and bragging rights. If cheating to get your bragging rights, you will forever know at the back of your mind that you didn't earn it legitimately.
I don't get it.
Whatever insecurity causes you to like need a trophy to validate yourself, because we all have our insecurities, face it. I need the validation. Hit like and subscribe, by the way. I started a Patreon, go follow that.
On Twitter.
yeah. Like we all have these little like things, these little insecurities or chinks in our armor that we have to cover up, and you know, getting that validation is awesome. But like if you have that drive to like get the trophy, something's causing you to need that, and you're always gonna know if you got that trophy in an untoward manner, that just that part that eats at you is gonna tell you don't deserve this. So I fundamentally don't get it. Obviously people do it, but I fundamentally don't get it personally.
Yeah,
So if I may, Garrett.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just gonna finish my story real quick, and I'm gonna let Garrett take it away. So that was 2 months before the first General's Handbook came out. General's Handbook came out. Garrett and I were talking, kind of sharing conversation about frustration over cheating, and we both decided to go for it and play Age of Sigmar.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett, take us to the podcast from there.
So basically, we both come from competitive 40K gaming, and we both jumped into the Age of Sigmar, and then fast forward what, 3, 4 years?
Yeah.
5 years?
In
Fast
the
forward a
meantime,
few years.
Garret has won Best ITC in Age of Sigmar, right?
Yeah,
Things
we
have
got.
happened.
So fast forward a couple of years, and we've started polling more Corsairs in Age of Sigmar. I've realized that Age of Sigmar is the game I always wanted to play because I didn't like the mechanics of Warhammer Fantasy. I totally agree that other people love it. I didn't like the wheeling and turning. I liked the more skirmishy style, but I love fantasy. I don't actually like sci-fi as much. And so when I started playing Age of Sigmar, I was like, oh, this is the game I've always wanted to play. 40K was not the game I always wanted to play. So I got in, and then we decided to a buddy of ours decided to start a podcast with different game systems. He was going to do 40K, X-Wing, and since a lot of us of the Corsairs had switched over to Sigmar at that point, he's like, "Well, start a Age of Sigmar 1." And so Alex became the spearhead of the Age of Sigmar side because he was working with our buddy Vince. So Alex basically one of the producers of the podcast, and he wanted to grab as many of the people who within his circle that he knew were knowledgeable about Age of Sigmar competitively to go forth. And so he got John, he got me, and he got Jeremy, our buddy Matthew Patchby as well. And so we just started recording together. Personally, I had moved to the East Coast at this point, so I was a little farther away from them, and I kind of was like, you know what? I'll gladly spend an hour a week chatting about Sigmar with you guys. I mean, I would spend 80 hours a week talking about Sigmar with you guys. If it's recorded for an hour, sure, why not? So I kind of just started chatting with them, and we started just recording, and I liked recording once a week as just a way to just chat about Sigmar, get things out there, and just talk. And that's kind of and that's why I started doing it. I was just like, you know what? Like, I don't really care what happens to this podcast. I don't care if anybody listens. To me, it's a way to just talk about Age of Sigmar for an hour. And if people want to hear what I have to say, bravo.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah,
and so that's how we kind of started the podcast. To answer your question about how we came to LVO, this was
pause on the LVO thing here real quick here. I'm actually very similar in that. So I started out with Warhammer Fantasy Battle when I was in middle school. My gateway drug into everything was like tabletop RPGs. So full disclosure, there. A lot of chat gang already knows this. Tabletop RPGs were like my thing.
Yeah, same here. I played a crap ton of 3.5 D&D in high school, and I ended up being the go-to guy to teach people how to play D&D in college. It's amazing how many people
playing 3.0 of D&D.
Well, I was AD&D and the TMNT RPG.
Well, I'm the youngling over here. So
fair enough.
I started it. Yeah, I was just saying, and then it's surprising how many people when you reach college all of a sudden think, "Wow, D&D, I want to try that."
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's like
it was weird.
Yeah. No, so I did. So I got into that, and my buddy who I always played RPGs with, we were playing a TMNT and a PFRPG campaign, depending on who was available to GM that time period. And I was sitting at his house making my new character, and I look over on his bookshelf, and he's got fucking the high elf dude on the dragon, the old metal looks like fucking Violator from Spawn, that guy. And I'm like, what is this awesome thing? What is this? And he's like, oh, this is Warhammer. And I'm like, Warhammer, go on. And so fast forward a little bit, I started playing Warhammer. I go off to college, and the game of the land is 40K. So I start playing 40K. I had already had a cursory interest in picking up Blood Angels. This was of course when they were in the Angels of Death Codex. It was Dark Angels and Blood Angels. We shared a book. Sure. So I went off to college. I had a cursory interest in them. Whatever, go off to college. They're their own real army by the time I get to college. So I started playing Blood Angels because you kind of, and especially in those times, I think you kind of played what people played in the area.
Yeah.
Like here, right. I have the power of the internet, so I can talk about Age of Sigmar all day long, all the time, even though my LGS is very much a 40K LGS. So I got into 40K. I always, like you, Garret, I disliked the guessing distances and spending movement to wheel. I always kind of disliked that. So when I was playing 40K, I really did like the cleanliness of the sort of skirmish style. And I'm playing Blood Angels, so I'm already playing a pretty assault-heavy army, right? Like, what's the shooting phase?
I played Orcs and Black Templars. Like, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, like, what's the shooting phase? Like, who gives a shit? Like, so I played 40K into about 4th and 5th edition, and 5th edition is where I think it really 40K just got started to get really scummy around that time period. A lot of like I don't think to this day I don't think Age of Sigmar has a power creep because I know the worst of it because I played 5th edition because I played 5th edition 40k. Like because I was there, like I remember Blood Angels coming out and deep striking my Land Raider Crusaders, and then I remember them like.
I think the other issue.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the other issue about power creep. I think is power creep was horrible in 5th edition because books came out every 6 months.
Yes.
Like that's what real power creep is when a book comes out and it dominates for 2 years, not 3 months. Like we're looking at 3-month power creeps in Age of Sigmar right now because things are so fast.
Well, and the thing is that the meta is actually wide enough in Age of Sigmar to where, like, first off, I don't think there's power creep. I might be wrong now because we could be setting a new trend here, but we had 12 battle tomes last year. The newest battle tome wasn't always the best battle tome. You know, Slaanesh reigned over the course of like 6 other battle tomes, right?
But that was only 6 months.
I know. And we're never going to see a release schedule that ambitious ever again. We're not getting 12 books in a year.
We've already got 2 in January. Who knows?
Don't make me a liar this early.
Don't even think they're going to slow down this.
Like who knows? Like I want to say the same. We've already 2 battle tomes and it's February. Yeah. So what do you want? And there's already like 3 more announced, and it's not even a Adepticon yet. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think I set the over under at 6.5 is what I said for the year. So if you want to bet
there was 7 battle tomes in 2018. Like there was 7 in 2018, 12 in 2019. Like
it depends on what you count too. I don't know that we're going to see that many battle tomes, but I think we're going to start seeing those campaign books.
Yeah.
And so that's the route we're going to start seeing is additional rules and little flavor things and just kind of mixing all of that together.
Yeah, no, that's my thoughts.
It's funny hearing you guys talk about 5th edition. I myself skipped all of that with 40k. I actually only started any of these gaming in 6th edition. Like for me, lifetime of not doing this kind of stuff, and then all my kids graduated, went off to college, and my wife was buying me a book.
So your empty nest syndrome was filling it up with tiny plastic men then, instead of...
Basically, my wife goes to the store and to buy me a book to read, and while she's in there, the GW store manager says, oh, hey, if your husband likes reading books like this, maybe he would like to build a model. And so he hands her the Assault on Black Reach kit, and she goes, oh, I remember he has a couple Dungeons and Dragons figures from when he was in junior high school. He'll probably like these.
That's fantastic. No, yeah. So
10 armies later, you know,
right.
I have a room dedicated to it.
Right. No, see, I got out of JD Esquire. Thank you so much for that Twitch Prime sub. No, I got out of 40k, and I did what a lot of like I met a girl and started a family and all that stuff. So I took a hiatus for what ended up being about like probably 7 years, something. I'd have to run the tape, figure it out. So I missed all of the end times for Warhammer. And my buddy, Heywo Twitch, comes back to, he was like, hey, remember how we used to, he's like, hey, remember how you liked Warhammer? And I'm like, I do remember how I liked Warhammer. He's like, you should come play Age of Sigmar. It's good again. And I'm like, oh, well, sign me up. So it was like that. And that, now it's been, I think I'm going on 3 years now in Age of Sigmar myself. So
nice.
So
nice.
Like, but
it's such a fun game. I mean, it's all you got to do is get somebody to roll dice and play a game, and they're hooked.
They took the thing they took the setting I already kind of liked, cranked it up to 11, which is the fantasy. You mentioned, Garrett, like you like more of the fantasy stuff, and you played the sci-fi stuff. I'm similar, so I write sci-fi as like a writer, but I prefer to play fantasy games. It's so weird. But I like to take fantasy tropes and fantasy themes and bring them into science fiction and fantasy. Or bring them into sci-fi and make them weird and fucking cerebral. But I know what reality is like, okay? I don't need to play the game that's just reality turned up too much. I want to play the game that takes made up bullshit and turns it up too much, and that's Age of Sigmar. But
that's one of the things I really loved about Age of Sigmar. A lot of people were complaining about Age of little guy is not important. And I was like, coming from D&D, I'm like, this clash between gods and giant beings, and when you die, you just go to a different realm. That's right up my alley with all the D&D lore. I don't if somebody dies, they just turn into a Stormcast. I'm like, well, in D&D, if you're kind of good, you die, you go to Valhalla and you kick ass.
Yeah.
I love that side of the lore,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's why I was like really actually into the lore of Age of Sigmar over Warhammer Fantasy.
See, I like Sigmar for similar reasons. It reminds me of the very Greek mythology for me. Like,
Yes,
where the gods
exactly.
the gods
Yeah.
are like actively doing shit. You know,
And I
like
really
they're
like that, actually.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And if you can accept the vagueness of the setting, like if you don't need it to be a round planet somewhere, you can accept the vagueness of realms. It is a beautiful high fantasy setting. And if people are, I think at first were complaining, but they didn't realize that GW has actually set up an amazing environment that allows them to tell any possible fantasy story that you can conceive of can be fit somewhere in the mortal realms.
Yeah.
And so just that alone is one of those amazing things.
The blank canvas that the mortal realms kind of are helps you insert yourself. And I was talking about this with Chuck Moore, Martin Orlando, and Paul from the Mortal Realms podcast. I was talking about just the last week, how like that sort of blank canvas really allows you to insert yourself into the Age of Sigmar. If you're an RPG nerd, this gives you that, like, you can make, no, this isn't a war boss on Maw Crusher. This is my, like, Maw Crusher, and this is his backstory, and he's just as awesome as, like, Gordrak. Well, just a touch removed from as awesome as Gordrak, and he's out fighting on this blank canvas area, so, like, of course he's removed from the main narrative. You maybe haven't heard of him. He's a little hipster, like.
I'd say that what you're talking about right there, that's almost a dirty little secret of these kind of games, is how much you personify your and sort of internally role play the army you have on the table. And yeah, maybe my Skaven guys have little names that only I say to myself, and other little storylines that are going on that would be disturbing if I said them out loud, and we probably all have a little of that. or is it just me?
I just want y'all to know that I started a flame war in chat gang here, talking about who the best wizard is. So if you've read Dragonlance, I think it's awesome that he stole power from Fistan Dantalus, and Raceland is the best wizard. I just wanted people listening back on audio to know that Raceland is the best wizard. Fight me IRL. So yeah, like I see there's some commonalities in why we love Age of Sigmar the way we do. I liked it's the cleanliness of the rules too. I think the skirmish style over the rank and flank, it allows you. The game's already complicated. We're moving in 3 dimensions, right? Like, we're moving in 3 dimensions at all time. You don't need to overly complicate this with essentially the math and the movement that an RTS would do for me, because it's a computer game. Like, I just want to, like, quote my friend Edric from when I was in 6th grade. Yeah, let's just get to the killing. I just, like, we're going to deploy well. We're going to, be sort of chess geniuses of deployment. And then from there, we're just going to move our models, take away each other's power pieces, chaff up stuff we need to chaff up, and we're going to play a game. And I love that quality of Age of Sigmar. I truly love it.
And I feel like, I know that with, like, the wheel and move, you lose that, like, oh, if you flank them, you get, like, better bonuses coming from the side or behind. But, like, still with the way that engagement works and the way that engagement ranges and work in Age of Sigmar, there's still a lot of tactical depth and trying to make sure you get the maximized number of guys in combat, try to get outside of combat for the other people, who you lock, who you don't. And that's actually one thing I really enjoyed when an 8th edition 40K dropped. I was like, the 1-inch engagement range, I felt like was really, like, kind of defeating. It's like, no, this 3-inch engagement range allows you to be much more tactical in the way you play and move. It is not just shoot your opponent off the table and call it a day.
No, in Packer,
the wheel of melee is a delight. It's so tactically deep, and the fact of moving models and setting up models to move towards the closest enemy, like that is to me the most fun portion of this entire game. And it is still absolutely a game where movement matters. I mean, in my opinion, this is still more a game of the movement phase than anything else.
That's a great take. No, I like activations too. It's just something as simple as choosing your activation orders. Like can really that adds that robustness layer to compile on top of the movements, the pile-ins and everything we see in here so far. I don't want to refine it to I lost based on this one thing. I think when you do that, when you talk about a game, like I lost because of this one thing, you overlook other decisions you made to get to that point. But I basically, at PACA, I lost because a guy locked me in 3 inches. Like, I'm like, my Nagash is like locked. I didn't even notice the freaking the Hag Queen that was still within 3 inches of me. So I'm like going into my turn, and I'm like, honestly, if I had given him the turn, then I get to kill her in my combat, and then just like hop and then burn an objective, move on to the next. Like I'm like, nope. Now I have to waste a whole fucking turn with this one idiot who's stuck in like within 3 inches of the god of death. You know, like 100-point idiot stopping a 900-point powerhouse from moving because my opponent was a tactical genius. This is John Wenger just played a stellar game, and it was like, wow, like that pile in the nuance of movement in Age of Sigmar.
Yes,
it's like I don't think we need to overcomplicate it. Is what I'm saying, is because there's so much already there, which is why this game just makes sense to me. It just makes sense.
It's funny. I would describe it from a TO's perspective, because I TO 40K events and I TO Age of Sigmar events. And for me, I can occasionally, if it's a smaller tournament, actually even play a game or two in an Age of Sigmar tournament. I could never play in a 40K tournament that I'm actually running. So to me, that's already a difference. And it's like a day of playing TOing Age of Sigmar is joking with some people, pointing out how cool some models are, maybe at the most reading somebody's rule out loud to them or reading a portion of the mission out loud to them. And that's about as deep as my decision making goes. On the other hand, I go do 40K and I'm pulling up websites, facts, and abacus. I'm messaging my buddy for his opinion, and then in the end, I'm
the abacus out, like actually
sort out these complex rules.
That's fantastic, man. I guess we don't know how green the grass is on this side of the fence, huh? As far as our rules go in Age of Sigmar. So I interrupted you for this rabbit hole about how awesome Age of Sigmar is. So how does Wide World of Wargaming end up going and doing the LVO thing?
So this was for us going to LVO. This LVO was my 7th LVO. There has been 7 LVOs. So we as our crew kind of, I don't think any of us have missed an LVO, mostly. Jeremy maybe not, but at least me, John, and Alex, none of us have missed an LVO. So we kind of go to LVO anyways.
Okay.
LVO is kind of our pinnacle event that we like to go to as a crew.
So
all of us go there and we all meet up. It's like, if we miss each other at tournaments, like, they don't always make it out here. I can't always make it out there. This is where all of us can come from around the country, meet up at Vegas, and just drink and have a really good fun.
So this is your penultimate event, and we can kind of actually explain what LVO is now as we're over the course of you kind of doing this narrative here. Sorry, this story. Narrative is like a capital letter word in Age of Sigmar. So this is your penultimate event. This is your Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
And just a real quick, does LVO kick off the tournament season for you, like mentally speaking, or does it close up a tournament season?
Closes.
So this is
open actually.
Okay.
Fair.
Because on Sunday the doubles event is the first event of the next season.
Okay. So this is the penultimate. This is the Super Bowl, but then it's also kind of like this. You've had the winter. You've been shut in. All winter long, or there's kind of a void of big tournaments in that sort of tail end of November into December, and even beginning of January. This is the big one, right? Like this is boom. We're all coming back. So LVO, real quick for folks. I guess I could let you describe it, but this is more of a wargaming event than just an Age of Sigmar tournament. This is akin to Adepticon in that there's a lot of minis games going on. It's not quite Gen Con, it's not like Gen Con where it's all sort of tabletop or traditional gaming, as I'd call it. This is very much a wargaming. You've got X-Wing there. I think they do Infinity. They do the Batman minis. I saw that on the schedule. I was like, wow, people play that game still? Or play that now? I'm sorry. So this is LVO. Do you want to take me through what LVO is? Kind of the rough numbers, if you know them.
So for LVO, rough numbers. I mean, obviously, it's a premier 40K event. They had 749 players in their 40K championships event. And then they have a 40K narrative event, which a bunch of my friends actually play in. It is a lot of fun, I hear. I think they get like 50 people for that. They have the Long War doubles. Then they also have, what else do they have for 40K? think that's about it for 40, they have the 40K RTTs on Sunday, but that's for people who drop out of the GT. And then Age of Sigmar, there's the Age of Sigmar GT. We had 170 people dice down round one. And then there's the Age of Sigmar narrative event, which was run by the Rolling Bad guys, and I heard was fantastic. They sold out real quick. I think they kept it down to like 26 to 30 people-ish to keep it small, but they sold out really fast. So they had their narrative event. I heard it was a blast. And then there was X-Wing. There was X-Wing, which I believe they had about 230 people for the X-Wing championships. They had Star Wars Legion, which had about 80 people per event. They had Star Wars Destiny, which had about 50 to 60 people per event. Then they had War Machine, which gets about 80 to 100 people for their events. And they have Kill Team. So that's right, Warhammer 40K Kill Team, which they got about 50 people for. And then Warhammer Underworlds, they had about 50 people for as well.
Okay.
And then 30K. Not to mention massive art classes and hobbying classes that actually... I don't even know the numbers, but probably accounts for a couple hundred more people because a lot of people go purely to do hobby track throughout the weekend.
And then they have the vendor hall. So LVO, as far as like describing LVO outside of just pitching you all of these numbers, it isn't your general shit. They don't really treat it like normal cons would. It is more of an event that runs a bunch of very large tournaments, has a vendor hall and some paint classes, and is in Vegas.
Mm-hmm. So
but it's
Vegas
mainly
is the rest of the con stuff, like all the things that a con would have to do to keep you entertained. They don't have to bother because you're in Vegas,
right?
So they like talking with Reese. He has said that is a he wants it to be a place for people to run large events, and then Vegas is is a destination place, and then he'll have paint classes and things like that. But it is a place where it's to run a lot of very large events. Like if other game systems want to come in and bring their championship events there, that's kind of what he's going for.
Right on. So LVO again, it's more of this is a spectacle. This is an event.
Mm-hmm.
This is not just a tournament. This is just in case people aren't familiar with LVO. I mean, I had to. I've been cursorily familiar with it. One of my couple of my friends kind of try to make it every year type thing, just because they're like children of Vegas. They any excuse to go to Vegas, they're gonna go. And so I think
to get there.
Yeah, what's that?
I said it's cheap to get there.
It is. Yeah, and So going to so you have these a bunch of wargaming tournaments, and now you can kind of catch us up now on how Wide World of Wargaming ends up sort of entrenched in helping run Age of Sigmar.
Well, we kind of know we've had relationships with organized through my professional relationships. I am affiliated with Frontline Gaming. We've worked a lot with them. We've run, as John said, he's talked with Scott Reed, who runs the Age of Sigmar tournament, a lot. And so we kind of have these personal relationships with people who run the events. And so we kind of, all the guys in Wide World of Wargaming, we just know all these guys. And so we just came out. I mean, half the crew played, and then John and I didn't. Everyone else played there. But we just come out and we know everybody, and we're like, you know what? We'll help out because that's just what we do. So, I mean, I wouldn't exactly say it was like Wide World of Wargaming came out and helped. It's more of like all of the people in Wide World of Wargaming go to Vegas anyways. Okay. And we have our own relationships. Like we like Scott. We know Scott will help out. I know Reese. I help out with Reese a lot. And so we just kind of
being a Bay Area guy. I mean, you got to remember that his early events were, supported by us locally as a part of it.
Okay. Cool. So I guess being in Vegas, this is also over the course of Chinese New Year. It's the same thing, right? Having that weekend, and we mentioned early, sort of at the onset of the show, maybe it was on the pre-show, how a lot of people were battling the con crud. You had a personal regiment to fight it off yourself.
Yes. So I myself go. So a few things. I do teach adult classes professionally, like an industrial type of class, robotics programming. So I'm used to speaking for a long time, so I know how to maintain and preserve my voice. I also do professional live streaming, but it's like private live streaming to groups of engineers at NASA or Lockheed or Tesla.
Okay, first off, that's hella sweet. I didn't know that. That's fucking cool as hell.
So when I was tapped on for some of the live streaming stuff, it was funny. Like they were using OBS there, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know what OBS is, but the stuff I use at
we
work
use proprietary bullshit.
Higher end,
yeah,
type stuff. So
yeah,
so not a big deal.
Yeah, well, you do have a voice for shoutcasting. I need to say that. Like, you've got to have like one of two voices. You got to have like mine, where it's in that like that timbre like thing, you know, or you got to have that really expressive, good modulating voice, and you've got that going on. So.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. No, so you talked about like it being in Vegas, and so like I think that's why I bring up the, you know, this is over the course of like kind of an event weekend for the city of Vegas as well, because they, as far as I know, they go pretty hard on any excuse to throw a great party, right? So.
Oh yeah. Well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Chinese New Year is over the top. And so I was talking about my fighting the con crud, right? So it's Chinese New Year. We're having this scare over the coronavirus,
right?
And it's Chinese New Year, but I'm from the Bay Area anyway, so it's like, you know, second largest Asian population in the world. So I don't even notice these things when I go to somewhere like Vegas, right? So that's not. But just being at the con, every person that came and talked to me, I swear they're like, "Oh, hey, John, how's it going?" I just felt like these like waves of disease coming at me, and so I backed off on the, like, every time I went to the bar in the hall, I literally told the guy, I go, "Look, just get me the biggest glass you can and fill it with pineapple juice." So all day long while I'm live casting, I'm pounding pineapple juice. I'm going down and getting smoothies at the smoothie bar. And you know, I limited myself to, well, I shouldn't say I limited myself that much, because I still went out Saturday night till I had told my wife. Was this
the Gordon Ramsay?
No, Gordon Ramsay was Friday.
Okay.
And then we have a tradition of Saturday night. We do a pub crawl or bottle service. Like a couple years ago, we got a really nice bottle service and went and saw Tiesto and stuff like that. So this year, one of our friends' wives got a hold of a private promoter who designed basically a custom pub crawl for about 20 of them.
Jesus.
And
this is way too rich for my poor Midwest blood here.
It was like $25 a head.
$25.
What?
$25.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I can swing that.
Free drinks at every bar we went to, right? Which was dangerous in itself. So the first one on the pub crawl was a margarita bar, and they had these spicy margaritas where the guy was taking a fresh jalapeno pepper and a lime and using a mortar to crush it into the glass.
Mm-hmm.
So fighting the cold and crud as I was, I made sure to down a few of those and, of course, eat that jalapeno pepper for a burst of vitamin C.
Yeah,
so I think that's really what kept me going more than anything. And then I had told my wife, I said, okay, no matter what I say, 3 a.m. I'm still out at 3 a.m. I got to record at 9 a.m. You have to drag me home. So 2:45, she pokes me. She says, okay, drop dead, boy. Your time to get out of here.
Right.
Drag me back to the hotel.
You have a very good wife.
Sunday morning, it is 45 minutes before time to record, and I can't even open my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to do this. There's nobody to back me up. I swing my legs out of bed, force myself up, stagger downstairs to the buffet, drink a bunch of orange juice, down a bunch of coffee, get there, somehow make it through that first stream on Sunday, which was the double, so I didn't, it was a little easier. And then my wife shows up with this, I don't even know what it is. It was like this powdered concoction of electrolytes, herbs, and mystery chemicals. I don't know.
Yeah.
Throws it into a bottle of water. I down that thing, and I feel amazing for about the next 4 hours.
It was meth. The concoction was crystal meth.
I don't know what was in there, but she took care of me.
It's like the Ride the Snake Jim Carrey thing, where it's like he's selling you a weight loss pill and it's just meth.
Yeah. Right?
Oh man, no. See for me, like, one of the draws I think for LVO would be Vegas itself.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I almost feel like the tournament is. I don't want to throw shade at Age of Sigmar because I love it so much, but the tournament would almost be background noise for me. I would go for the Vegas, and then I would stay for the AOS, I guess.
I mean, hell, you could sign up for some painting seminars, go for the narrative event. Like, fuck the GT. Like, just go for Vegas and, like, sign up for, like, maybe a painting seminar here, go play in a narrative event, or just play Sunday at the doubles, and just fucking, like, hang out with people at Vegas. I mean, there's, like, a bar there. We're just drinking the whole fucking time, whether you're playing in the GT or not. Nobody cares if you walk up to their table, throw down a glass, and be like, "You're drinking this," and they're like, "Okay."
Well, so I'm just going to go ahead and cross out my "sell me on LVO" for my show notes. I think that's cool. So I guess while we're on the subject, LVO strikes me as like a competitive first type event. This isn't like a hobby first type event. This is narrative. Okay.
No, I mean, they have the narrative events. They have like LVO promotes their competitive GTs heavily. That is true, which is why people have that. Exactly.
Yeah.
They like that is their bread and butter when it comes to bringing in attendance. But they have the painting seminars. It is Vegas, and they like the Rolling Bad Guys. I heard put on a really good show for their narrative event.
Yeah.
And the 40K narrative event, my buddies always have a blast doing it. Like their narrative events succeed and sell out every year.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
well, the point I was getting at is something you already kind of covered. It's okay for me to show up on Saturday morning and Sunday morning because I'm going to be hungover with my Bloody Mary at the table. Like everyone knows Bloody Marys are great for hangovers.
Sadly, the union, the catering union doesn't allow outside drinks, so you will have to buy from their bar in the venue itself. But they have a bar set up; you can just get a Bloody Mary.
And they don't crank up the prices, so they're normal prices. And every year,
I'm just going to go ahead and cross out "sell me on LVO" a second time. All right, continue.
Every year, I have found at least 2 people through the hall who had an extra army bag with some sort of alcohol in it. So even though in theory, I'm going in and buying drinks from the bar, the reality is maybe I'm getting my mixer at the bar.
Yeah, there's a bunch of smugglers. There is a very thriving smuggler trade going on in that event.
It's just like a black market. So we actually have a beer. I don't know if you know about this. We have a beer in Wisconsin. It's called New Glarus. I try to hit all the Midwest tournaments I can, but it's got one of those weird old laws where it is illegal to sell New Glarus outside of the state of Wisconsin. Once every like 3 or 4 years, you hear that like a big semi truck is pulled over and a bunch of people are like busted in the big New Glarus like smuggling operation of the century, right? Like it just the last one I heard was actually in New Jersey, like an entire semi truck filled with New Glarus, and a bunch of people got like like just some fine. But I make it a point to bring New Glarus out of the state anytime I get to go. So I might I don't know if you know the black market at LVO for this smuggling, but I might need to talk to them so that some of the Vegas locals of the tournament.
Yeah, I feel I need to try some of this beer now, so I'll be disappointed
it's the forbidden beer.
Don't have one in hand next year at the LVO. It's funny that you mentioned that. You know, back in the 70s, my dad is from Ohio, and we used to have family that would come out from Ohio and visit us in the Bay Area. And whenever they came from Ohio, they would have to bring my dad cases of Coors beer, because you used to not be able to buy Coors on the West Coast. Then they would come out, and we would take them down to Monterey to buy Monterey Jack cheese, and up to San Francisco to buy sourdough bread. And so they would go back to Ohio with sourdough bread and Monterey Jack cheese after bringing us the Coors beer.
That's like a smuggling operation.
There's a whole ring going on.
Like there's a whole ring. No, I love that. See, so there's still like for a little like a little Midwestern boy. You're saying there's a lot at LVO for me.
If you like drinking, it's Vegas. Like, what is there to sell you on?
Well, no, if you don't like drinking, there's eating. Like, you should see.
Oh yeah, the food.
Right.
When I went to the Gordon Ramsay, the dude brought a rack of all the different cuts they have to offer, explained to me about all the different cuts and the marbling, and then I happened to notice this super expensive $40 an ounce steak from Japan that was on there. And I said, well, tell me about this. I'm not going to order it, but I want to know about this. So the guy goes back in there and brings this giant.
This is the Wagyu, right?
Japanese steak. No, it wasn't even a Wagyu. No, it's this is beyond Wagyu. This is
this is
L5 or something like that.
Wagyu plus, like it's even like it's super. Yeah, okay.
The Kobe Wagyu.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's the Kobe Wagyu.
He
Yeah,
brings
it's
it
the
out,
super.
he's showing me this thing and explaining the meat. I'm like, that's amazing. I just got like a meat-ucation at this
The
restaurant.
meat-ucation. So while we're on the subject here, we got to go back to the real core topic, the thing that brought you all here to RantCast today, which is the whiskey meta.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I heard that you actually got to try some of this Japanese whiskey.
The Akashi, I think it was.
Zikashi. All right, and then you started out the show actually on the Belvini Scotch, right?
Yep.
Yep. So real quick, take us through your pairings, your matchups.
My matchups, as it were.
Yeah.
So real briefly.
Yeah.
I am in what I call the whiskey phase of my life, specifically bourbons. It was what I've been exploring.
Hell yeah.
When I was younger, I was into beer, and through much of my
30s, 40s,
I was a wine guy.
I got to give my bourbon take real quick before you go too deep into this.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
And so then go ahead, please.
So the reason I'm a bourbon guy. The reason I'm a bourbon guy, it's basic economics. So cheap Scotch tastes like shit. High end Scotch is great.
Yes.
Cheap bourbon and high end bourbon, that like gap between them, it's very small. Like, so you can drink a good
second glass. The cheaper stuff's okay.
Yeah, you start out with the high shelf bourbon, and by the end of the night, you're on a mid tier bourbon. You're having a great night. And so that's why I love bourbon. So I'm a big bourbon guy. Go on now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for me, I was out in Ohio, southern Ohio, northern Kentucky, and I was meeting with a bunch of local business owners out at a restaurant, and each of these guys had a story about how they went to some amazing distillery, knew the owners, and had some special bottle of bourbon for whatever reason in their story made it amazing. And it started clicking to me like bourbon is this great American spirit. And though I know about wine and beer, I don't really know a lot about bourbon. I mostly drink clear spirits at that time, right? And so you know what? I said to myself, I am going to start drinking bourbon. I am going to explore bourbons. And this is about a decade ago or so. Mm-hmm. And I just started declaring it to all my friends. I started telling them, you know what? I'm exploring bourbons now. And everybody started buying me bottles, like really nice bottles of bourbon. And so, I got this great bar now filled with like some amazing bourbons. And it's just like, I'm a hard guy to buy gifts for. So, hey, John, here's this great bourbon. And I'm like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Most people, that's the beauty of being like a quote unquote whiskey guy or bourbon guy, is most people who draw a blank on Christmas presents for me, just give me a good mid-tier $30 to $40 bottle of bourbon or scotch. So any single malt whiskey, we're good.
Right? A little Knob Creek in the stocking makes you happy.
Yeah. Knob Creek's good. Templeton Rye, not quite a bourbon, but still really good. Like any of the.
Now I got to draw. I'm not a rye guy.
Ooh.
Yeah, rye kind of upsets my stomach a little bit for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. So I definitely like scotches. I get occasionally that I want to get something real peaty, but that's not normally where I like to land. And so I just find that bourbons, and now starting to explore some Japanese whiskeys with that little bit lighter flavor is what I'm enjoying.
Well, so this is for you, chat gang, but Mr. Meth is not a weeb. We have our own emoji that explains exactly that I'm not. But I've had a lot of friends that out of college went over to Japan. Apparently Japan loves to drink too. Like, which, like, you think of like Germany, like, oh yeah, Germany loves to drink. Like Ireland, of course Ireland loves to drink. Australia, like AOS coach was here in chat a little bit ago. Like, Australia loves to drink. You don't think of Japan as like loving to drink, but according to every single one of my friends, they do, and they actually have a real appreciation for like whiskeys, and it's actually kind of born out of that post World War II occupation phase, where a lot of the American soldiers would have like so they got like, Japan doesn't do anything light. They crush everything they ever attempt. So like if they get an interest in whiskey, by God, they're gonna make great whiskey. So of your matches, of your rounds against the whiskey,
Yes.
who do you think won?
Ooh, well, I have to go to, ITC champion Jeremy Vessier at 1:30 in the morning at some speakeasy in Vegas. Went off and he said, John, I am going to buy you the best whiskey I can. He was gone for 20 minutes, comes back. Apparently they had to go in back and find this bottle. It was covered in dust. It was around for so long. They bring it out. He goes, don't even ask me what this costs, but here you go. And he gives me this glass, and it's beautiful, like sort of a mid-amber color in a nice little glass with a square cube in there. And oh man, it hit the palate. And you get a really fine whiskey and it just kind of poof, it vanishes in your mouth and you're left with just that little bit of a flavor across your palate there.
Yeah.
That was nice. That was the one that won. And like I said, I'm pretty sure it was the Akashi, but I was a little foggy at the moment, but not that foggy.
Okay. So Japanese whiskey won LVO this year.
They won the LVO this year
they
for me
won
for
it.
sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
But to be fair, I finished the LVO because of the hot peppers and the spicy margaritas.
Yeah, but that's just like that's all in the reps of the preps, man. Like.
Yeah, that was medicine. That wasn't even like a party. Health purposes.
Oh man. So I don't know. It sounds like you both had a great time at LVO. I haven't heard from you I haven't heard from you, Garret, in a little while. Did you partake? You didn't partake in the whiskey meta, but certainly the surrounding festivities, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as the whiskey meta goes, sadly, I just don't have the palate for it. I have gone through many whiskey tastings, tried many high-end whiskeys, and I actually enjoy whiskey tasting because I love getting the little drips of whiskey into my mouth, and you get that just nice explosion of different flavors. And you can look for all the different spices or just whatever they kind of use to make that a little different of a whiskey. And I like tasting all those. Yeah. But you get me to try to drink any whiskey, and it's gasoline. Okay. Just straight up. All whiskey tastes like gasoline when I try to drink more than a little drop of it.
So like 0-5 in the whiskey meta, like just.
Oh yeah, no, I am bottom tables, wooden spoon, bad matchup. Like it is like I go up against whiskey and it's like auto loss. Just like
this is your hard counter.
Yeah, hard counter. Yeah, whiskey's straight up my hard counter. I'm kind of a little more of a pub guy. I don't usually do the pub crawls. In the past, we've done a lot of bottle service clubbing, and so I tend to stray away from that because I don't really feel like dropping $175 for 3 watered down drinks and a bunch of loud music. So I tend to just go to like a bar with a couple of friends, get a bunch of ciders or whatever, and just drink and chill, and then or hit the craps tables and just get free drinks all night.
Well, there's a fact. We definitely like the craps tables. Mm-hmm. I will say we didn't actually get to play much craps this year, but last year we had a run. So I roll the dice and I have some famously lucky streaks that have happened, including hitting 2 double sixes in a row. I hit double ones followed by double sixes. And after I hit the double ones, everybody on the table piled money on the double sixes, and I hit it.
Well, no, it was actually, John. Let me tell you this story.
I love that you have a crap as wargamers. I feel like craps is the game for us.
Oh, craps is the wargamers game.
And so, for somebody who worked in the casino industry, I happen to know that craps should be your game.
Yes,
but continue.
So, this is what happened. We have a wonderful teammate of ours, Paul McKelvey, and his wonderful Jessica, she's actually the one who organizes all of the pub crawls whenever we go for our team. She's great. But they love craps. They've been craps players for years. So Paul throws down like $5 on C&E. And John hits it, gets like $35 back. And then so he throws that $35 on Snake Eyes. John hits the Snake Eyes. He then takes the winnings from the Snake Eyes and puts that like $350 on boxcars, and John hits the boxcars and gets Paul like $3,000 in 3 rolls. They then leave. They're done.
Yeah, I'm sorry, checking. If you thought we were gonna have LVO guests on and not talk about gambling, I don't know what you signed up for. No, see, I'm actually like I just play pass line and odds. Like that's all I ever do.
That's the way you. I mean, that is the mathematically best way to get the most money, but it's also the cheapest
to
way
drink for free. Because most places, you just play pass all night. You drink for free all night. Like
fuck the odds. Just play the pass line. Like min bet and pass line, and sit there all day and get free.
Drink. Yep, that's me.
I've brought a lot of people.
You put the odds on, and you tend to mathematically come out ahead. But yeah.
If you want to, I tell a lot of people like it was like they're like they've never played craps. A bunch of my friends, I'm like, okay, you want to drink in Vegas? You come to craps. It's a party game. We all win together. We all lose together. It's a fucking blast.
Well, that's what Chat Gang here, Professor Xavier's saying. Craps is for the social aspect. He likes
exactly. Like honestly, if I'm alone, I go play blackjack just because it's a little faster and I don't need to like wait for things to happen. But if I'm with people, I go immediately to craps. I don't care because you all just get pumped up and win and lose together. And
craps as a group is the way. So last year, we're at the table. It's late. I finish a nice run. Garret starts rolling. Garret rolls for over an hour.
It was close to 2 hours.
Yeah, there's these bets where you have to get like, 5.
The repeater
doubles.
bets.
Yeah, the repeater bets. So this guy at the end of the table is putting money on all the repeater bets. Garrett's rolling so long that he hits almost every one of the repeater bets during his roll.
I think I hit 6 different repeater bets that time.
It gets to be where the guy, every time he wins at the end of the table, this little teeny dude goes, yeah! Runs over to the Garret, picks big old Garret up, swings him around, dances with him, rolls back. Garret rolls again. The guy wins again, comes back over. This goes on for a while. Garret finally craps out, but no one cares.
I earned the table like the total table payout. I think was like $8,000 to $10,000 between the 8 of us. Like I earned Jessica a trip to Disneyland because she bet on the repeaters, got $600 off of it. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's not over.
Our friend Liz rolls after Garret, and she rolled for 45 minutes straight after that. Damn. Again, everybody making money. It was the most amazing run of craps ever.
Wow.
So it was like 3 hours for 2 rollers.
Yeah.
And everyone's winning the whole time, just high five.
Yeah, no, everyone's betting across, like, we're all betting crazy. I'm doing cum bets constantly. Yeah. And it's just like I was at the point where I had every number for cum, and it's just like no matter what I rolled, I won, and I just put it right back on. And it's just like I walked away like 600 up, and it was a crazy fun time.
That's awesome.
And you remember how it ended? Dude came up to the table and drops a big old stack on the don't come line,
or the no pass
for everyone else to lose. Hits it. Everyone looks at each other, and we all left the table.
Yep. Way to be a dick. No. It's funny because it's like craps really is like it's the Wargamers dice game. So another pretty awesome thing actually happened at LVO that I didn't realize I'd be talking about, but I'm going to do one of my famous leave the stream, and you guys are going to carry you and Chacking are going to carry the stream, and you're going to talk about the American Chestnut story real quick, and I'm going to come back with a bit.
Fair enough.
Okay. So real quick, this actually ties in with who was co-casting with you.
Yes.
Yeah. So you want to take us away, and then Garret, now you have to be Mephisto.
Okay.
And ask leading questions and talk about how great whiskey is. Go.
Fair enough.
I will try.
so as it would I got to back up. So first off, this is what our second game on the stream.
Is this with Matt or?
This is with Matt Barker.
So third game on the stream.
Third game on the stream. So it's still day one. We're still picking armies based on how they look, and we put our teammate Matt Barker up there with his amazing
nepotism at all. None at all.
Huh?
No nepotism. Yeah. None at all.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, there was, but his army was beautiful, and I was able to choose, and Garret agreed. So we put him up there, and he plays a game against this gentleman, also by the name of Matt Beasley, who has Tzeentch. And not only are these two gentlemen playing Tzeentch versus Nurgle, very opposite types of armies, their personalities and game style somewhat exemplify the god that they represent. The gentleman playing Tzeentch is very calculated, very planning. Of course, Matt is a little more joyous and gregarious on the table. So very good. So we come over, and of course, after each game, I bring people over for an interview, and I'm talking to the guys. And I told everybody, I said, look, after we talk about the game, you can promote anything you want, okay? Because we talk, and I always talk to the loser first. So Matt Barker with Nurgle had lost the game. And at the end, he decides to talk about the American chestnut. Now, he is an arborist by trade, so knows something about trees. And he basically talks about, the rescue of the American chestnut. Now, I myself am an avid gardener. If you watched any of my YouTube stuff, I'm into the hot peppers. I did the Don't Fear the Reaper challenge was the thing last year. Garret loves hot peppers, all that stuff. So I know a lot about gardening and stuff. And as I've poked around gardening things, I had noticed that I believe it's the American Audubon, but maybe it's the American Arborist Society. I forget what page I was on. Offers you free chestnuts. Again, trying to repopulate the American chestnut. So Matt talks about the American chestnut and how much he loves it. And I'm like, oh, I know something about American chestnuts. I know how you can get them for free. And so I start talking to Matt, telling him about the American chestnut. Well, on the meantime, poor Matt Beasley, the Zinc player, he's over there. And he is so polite and so patient. But the look on his face basically says, oh my God, these two guys are sitting here talking about trees and they won't shut up. and so that was how it went. Now oddly enough, my partner Roger on the live cast, he actually owns an entire mountain range back in Missouri, right?
Oh my God.
Full story about, his family owned it. He's the oldest child, so it's to him. And these coal companies are continuously trying to get them to pay them to basically strip the mountain and get the coal out. He doesn't want that to happen. So he's trying to turn his mountain into more of a nature reserve. So they're building cabins and
Rogers
trails.
Is one of my favorite people right now, by the way. Like, just giving the giant middle finger to these people trying to strip his mountain. That's awesome.
Exactly. And so he figures if he turns it into a resort, because they've actually tried to use like eminent domain and legally take his stuff, but his family's owned it since, George Washington. So nobody's taken their mountain, right?
Right.
So anyways, Roger tells his brother.
Shout outs to owning a mountain, by the way.
Right? Yeah. Sorry, John, but I just really want to, I think me and Mr. Mephisto is like, sorry, nobody's just going to take his mountain.
Yeah.
This is we're talking about a fucking mountain here. Not just like your backyard or some farmland. No, nobody's going to take his fucking mountain. No.
Yeah. Well, imagine me when I'm talking to Roger and he's telling me about it. I'm like,
oh my God.
It was great. So he calls his brother, tells him about this. His brother gets a hold of, again, it was the Audubon or Arborist or whatever, orders 100 chestnut trees to be delivered to their mountain, and they're going to seed the entire mountain with chestnuts.
Hell yeah.
That's my chestnut story, as it were.
Awesome. That's awesome. So, now we need to get Roger to champion a cause I love, which is bees. This is an inside joke I haven't actually shared with RantCast yet. So you're all coming along on my story here. So my dream in life, my dream of dreams. So I've got a couple of short fiction stories published. I went for English Lit. That's what I went to University of Wisconsin Eau Claire for.
Nice.
Which meant I was just either unemployed or I worked at a bookstore, so I did both. I was unemployed for a little while, and then I worked at a bookstore, and I eventually ended up in the trades, because usually there's some sort of apprenticeship or paid training, and then you can end up in trade labor. But my goal of goals is to sell a novel for no other reason than being able to buy a cabin in the North Woods of Wisconsin, pay to have a actual fiber connection board to it, so I have the fastest internet I could possibly have, because just because I live in a cabin doesn't mean I want to be a savage, okay?
Fair.
And then become a beekeeper, because the American honeybee is borderline. It was one of those borderline endangered species, and if it dies, agriculture as we know it fucking just ends. So So I want to be one of those like weirdos who has like the fucking like weird suits, and like I just go out and I pull a honeycomb out of the hive with all the bees I talk to, and then like I put that honeycomb just directly onto my toast, and I eat that every morning, and then I go hide in my office and I like type my book and I play war games on the weekends. Like that's my goal, like in life.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's kind of what my in-laws did. They lived up in near Yosemite, California, and like my father-in-law, he like builds all the like my kitchen table is built by my father-in-law, and so he like built most of the furniture that's in their house. And they like raised bees and like. Yeah, no, it's like it's weird coming from an urban guy like me and like meeting these people and like, wow, that's a life.
People do it around here. I mean, my old boss was also into beekeeping, and he lived up in I think Boulder Creek or something like that. And he'd tell me stories about like having his new queens shipped there, and like the local post office would call and say, "Hey man, a package came for you, and it's buzzing. Like we're not going to deliver this. You need to come pick this up."
Well, not like because you can get like you want to get like different like bee colonies, and you can pollinate and stuff. Like Heavy D6 is here. He said he went on a beekeeping like YouTube streak last year. If you start looking into beekeeping, there's people who just like keep them recreationally. You have like a small little thing, and a lot of brewers in Wisconsin do some of their own beekeeping, so they can do some of those like honey vices and like really awesome like honey beers and stuff, or meads. And a lot of like vintners are doing like they'll be incorporating like they do some meads, but then they'll incorporate like the honey with their grape, because we don't have like great soil for our grapes, so we usually tend to import our grapes from like California or Canada of all places. And then from there, like our honey, actually like our ability to have great honey and great maple syrup though, so then we like incorporate those into our wines. Cherries, we're also really good at cherries here in Wisconsin.
Ooh, I like me some cherries. I call it my cherry season. Out here, June is when the Bing cherries ripen. And so you can go to a dozen roadside stands and get your big old thing of Bing cherries. And every year, I'll go buy a big old basket and just eat them all till I'm like, sore in the belly. And I'm like, it was worth it. It was worth every bite of it.
Yeah, these things used to be poisonous and kill our species, but now we've just like, we've evolved them to our whim. That's cherries. So like beekeeping is like this weird thing. You're welcome, RantCast chat gang. You've never known about this until now about me, that I have a secret passion for bees. I don't know where it comes from. I think bees are sweet. I hate insects, but bees are awesome. Like
That's interesting.
Wasps are dicks.
Myself,
fuck wasps.
As a youth, fuck wasps. As a youth, nowadays I'm a engineer, but as a youth I was fascinated by insects, and so a lot of adults around me piled me up with reading and stuff. And I myself am very fascinated by social insects. So I actually think that like ants, bees, and stuff like that are pretty interesting. So not necessarily super into bees, though I like bees, but I can appreciate that you like bees. They're pretty cool.
See, this is the content, the AOS content you can only get on Reddit. It's like fucking talking about bees and... Oh man, no, like it's. I think that's why I like Drycha, and why I think the Drycha changes are great, because like she just like has a minigun of bees, 20 bee shots at you. Like I'm like, hell yeah! Like it's like The Simpsons, with the dogs that bark bees at you. Like that's Drycha.
Now, of course, where you are, you don't necessarily like. We have regular honeybees here, but where I live is actually the northern range of the killer bee. So like where I live, we are like taught how when you're walking through the woods to recognize whether it's killer bees that are coming and messing with you. Like the basic is, as you're walking down a trail, if you have bees that start like slamming into your body, like headbutting you, then that's an indication that you're sort of the outer territory of a killer bee.
Well, they're tagging you with the pheromones so that the other bees with the like murderous stingers can come and kill you.
Is that what that is?
No, they're tagging you with the pheromones.
Headbutted by bees, you turn around and go away.
Yeah, they're tagging you with pheromones. It's that's how that works. See, I have a weird fascination with bees. No, I work outdoors, so I do basically I work for city engineering.
Cool.
And so anytime there's like so if you're going to do any construction or city planning, or even if you're going to put up a fence in your yard, you tend to have people locate the utility lines and locate your property lines and do surveys and stuff. I do that.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, check this out. I actually went to college to be a mechanical drafts person.
Yeah,
but when I was getting my degree, they were really pushing people to go into civil drafting to become civil engineers. That they declared there's like
not quite a civil engineer.
Civil engineers, not quite a civil engineer.
No. They're above me. I'm their lackey that goes out and makes sure that they get to do their job.
Still on the same train though.
Right. So I work outdoors and like in bees and wasp and shit, but fucking wasps. Anyway. So that's a good RantCast tangent for you. I think it's great that LVO ended up with a little bit of like some good being done for the American chestnut. I think that's pretty cool.
Yep.
And now next year your challenge, do some good for the bees. Get Roger to get some like beehives for these American chestnuts.
So what you're really saying to me is John, can you twist the conversations and interviews in such a way as to put a focus and an awareness on bees? And I'm going to tell you right now, Mr. Mephisto, that's going to happen.
So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have a yellow army and a black army on the table at all times.
Yeah.
So you notice that there's a yellow and black theme here. So I want to talk about the bees.
And not to overemphasize the bees, but with Drycha on the table, that would
like you'll just turn down the player mics and just start talking about bees. Like fuck strategy. Like you guys can watch the game. We're gonna talk about bees, okay?
Look at how these Ossiarch Bone Reapers have their Mortek Guard kind of wrapping and swarming Gotrek right now, almost like a swarm of bees protecting a hive. Oh man, I guess I mean I get like this could go even further. Like Tyranids are a thing in 40K. Borrow some terrain, get some hive tables going at LVO.
Well, now there, I'll put that challenge to you. If you build a hive-based table and come to the LVO, I guarantee I can make it one of the tables that gets played.
Okay, all right.
That'll be the open. Hey, by the way, did you play on the beehive table?
And, I'll bring my Sylvaneth with Drycha, and I'll be on that table every.
Hell yeah!
There we go. So
it'll be like a king
bee meta.
B meta incoming. It'll be like the King of the Hill table. Like you have to you declare the table. I'm gonna play on the B table, and like you have to get beat off the B table.
Unfortunately, when you play on the B table, it's like your army becomes bees. So each model only gets to swing once, and then you got to pull it off the table. A little bit of a funny rule going on.
That's only bumblebees. They're so adorable and they don't want to sting you because they know they'll die.
Right?
Which is kind of metal if you think about it. Like, I'm going to kill myself to annoy you. And, like, have a 10% chance that you're allergic and actually maybe kill you. Like, what
right? But that tones them down. Unlike the wasps that know that, like, I can sting you just for fun. Just for fun.
Wasps are dicks. Games Workshop is glad to announce the newest faction of AOS. Bees.
Was it that Eddie Izzard skit? I'm covered in bees.
Well, there has been talk of an insectoid Age of Sigmar army.
That would actually be cool.
Where do you guys come down?
Except for building it. All those little spindly bits. I am not gluing bee antennas on top of 1,000 models.
Right. I mean, we've got Tyranids, and they're kind of in that xenomorph / they moved away from like the insectoid thing more towards just like pure xenomorph and their own thing now. But like they had a little bit more of a insectoid vibe, I think, early on. So I think we could see an AOS like parallel to like a Tyranids, but I don't think we're gonna get like specifically like insects, quote unquote.
No. But it's funny. Actually, you start talking about like Sylvaneth. That's one that's almost fun. You could have, maybe not bees, but like some sort of a swarm in there might be fun. Certainly Nurgle has the flies, but that's,
they're cool.
Nurgle.
They're cool. Well, no, and that is the thing is like Sylvaneth, they have something Age of Sigmar has done is they have like little friends, like we call them like little friend, like fish friend. IDK have like their little fish friends.
Mm-hmm. Give those fish friends an artifact.
Yeah, not anymore.
Oh, they changed that?
Yeah, they FAQ'd you can't give the shoal the sword of Japan anymore. our service, but
Okay.
they
I
just
knew there was a reason I shelved that army.
yeah.
Not
I
enough
don't know.
cheese.
I don't know. Well, not enough.
It's funny. Like I just talk about Idneth real quick. Got super excited when they came out. Saw that turtle. Like what an amazing model. Got them home. Start building them. Start playing that army. And it's like I win with it, but it's just not even interesting to play that army. Meh.
So we can come back on topic now that we just went in the rabbit hole of rabbit holes.
Or
and,
beehive. Of rabbit
Do we
holes.
win the award for the deepest rabbit hole in RantCast?
Like I think you got to look at like Inception for rabbit holes. Like how many rabbit holes within a rabbit hole can you go? And I
Right.
think we only went 2 or 3 deep, and I guarantee someone's gone like 4 or 5 deep.
All right.
So
Yeah,
so
you gotta
maybe
take a road
The
trip
hole.
with me to go Inception depth. I would
yeah,
say.
like you got to get to that Inception mode, and then like there's a top, and we're not even sure if we're doing a podcast anymore. Like once we get to that level, no. So to bring it back a little bit, Gargants have my attention. Yeah. There's a lot of new rabbit army based on rabbit holes. Oh, come on, stop, chat gang, stop. You're getting out of hand now. No, to bring it back to LVO. LVO actually didn't allow the new KO or the Zinch. Oh my god. All right. So are you a splicer from BioShock? Like,
that was from my wife and I went
Oh
to
my
a
God.
restaurant opening that was a masquerade a couple years ago, and that's left over from that event.
So here's the thing about John. John is almost the definition of the most interesting man in the world.
okay.
We had an 8-hour drive from Bay Area, California down to San Diego for a tournament. And I was running on 0 hours of sleep. I had been up for 30 hours at that point. I didn't sleep a wink because John talked for 8 hours straight. Did not, and the other guy driving didn't care. Neither of us cared. John literally talked for 8 hours straight. And every
I can do
story
that.
was just more impressive than the next. And then, like, I see on Facebook, and he's like, "Oh, I'm getting box seats at the Sharks game because my dad knows the guy who owns the team, and so we're eating burritos." And he sends a picture of them eating like Taco Bell burritos in the VIP spots of the Sharks game, and we're like, "The fuck, John!" Like,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. So
Well, he fucking podcast or he does live streams for NASA. Of course he knows people. Like I mean I heard that about him. Like, oh, this guy fucking knows some shit. Like,
and then his dad ran an escort service and owned multiple strip clubs and like in Bay
Yeah.
Area, California. And it's just like,
You know, I try to present myself as a much more respectable person. Now you're just throwing me out there. But yes, I come from a, shall we say, an entertainment background.
yeah, right.
the shoutcasting voice makes sense because back in like your grandfather's day or whatever would have been standing on like a box with like a fucking homemade megaphone, like we got the best women in the heaven, like, and he'd be
Yeah, like for me at 19,
Be like that
20,
scene in-
21, I used to escort dancers to private parties. So it'd be like, you show up at a house or a hall with 40, 50, 60 drunk guys with a beautiful woman, and your job is to go in, take as much of their money as possible, and get out safely. And I mean, I've had like guys creating a wall around us as we squirt out of the house, and beer bottles and stuff thrown after the car because man, that crazy stuff has happened there. But
wow.
that is a rabbit hole that I'm not taking.
Yeah, we don't need to go down this one. I don't think.
we don't make a permanent record of any of those stories.
Man, yeah, wow. I feel like, man, maybe wow, okay, cool. Maybe I need to be in a car ride with you sometime to LVO. Like,
Right? No, seriously. Take a car ride with John for 8 hours. Different.
Yeah,
It's an experience.
You just come out changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
A new appreciation for life, I think, is the better word. A new appreciation for life.
Yeah. It's good for me. Like guys like Garret and stuff, and some of my teams, they're all meeting me after I've had my children. I'm over 50, so like I have a lot of stuff in the past. But that nowadays I'm just a nice, friendly wargaming guy who likes to paint my miniatures and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah,
And
all
maybe
that.
drink a little whiskey.
Drink a little whiskey. Yeah, whiskey meta. All right, so yeah, LVO made the decision to not go with to not allow like Tzeentch and KO, and I think that we've seen some discussion now with like where Tzeentch is at. So first of all, like, what are your opinions on like those two tomes, and how did you see that decision playing out from your shoutcasting perspective and from your sort of like help with the organization, the logistics of it standpoint? Like,
So I'll just start real quick, because one of the things I did is I made sure I went through every single list pre LVO to make sure everyone was bringing legal lists and the correct format and stuff, so I can do some data parsing on them and stuff. And I noticed that it caused some logistical errors with KO and Tzeentch, because War Scroll Builder and Azure had both been updated at that point, and so it was frustrating for people to build legal lists with old books.
This is, I think, something we don't talk about. The logistical issues of building your legal list for an event that says the thing you're building your list in isn't legal or is legal, or like I've had that. Many of us have had that happen where we build a list that says it's legal via Azure, and we show up and it's actually you're playing with an illegal list. I think the opposite is kind of scary from a like, okay, my new book's out, but this event doesn't allow it, and so now I have no compass in Azure.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
like, people there was a forced format of using War Scroll Builder or Azure to build your list, or specifically War Scroll Builder, but these people had to manually edit their War Scroll Builder list to match points, to match unit sizes, to match all these things, because like Carrick Acolytes could only be taken in 30 in the new book, but they could be taken in 40 in the old book, and so people had to like manually edit to say I have 40 not 30, and then they had to figure out the math themselves, and so people were making math errors. I saw some guy was like off by 50 points because he just did his math wrong when he declared his total points at the end. And so it created some awkwardness where I had to like go to Scott and like, hey Scott, this guy technically has an illegal list, or this guy did something that was probably not intended for his list. And so building lists was actually frustrating because people couldn't use the tools that would normally help you build your lists. They had to do it themselves. And they had to also just accessing unit war scrolls. The app has updated. All the old war scrolls are gone. So you have to then go look at war scrolls. So doing rules judging during the thing is frustrating because you have to find the old rules using physical books or old digital copies of books. The FAQs are gone. So it's like, that was one of the big things is I think there was a couple of rulings with Tzeentch where we had to dig through 3 different books to try to find the language on how a specific rule worked, because that was an old rule that shouldn't matter anymore, but it does because they were using old rules.
Well, this is something that I don't think is being talked about in the we should not allow books, before the FAQ comes out, or we shouldn't do that. This isn't what's being talked about. Is this notion that the sort of accessibility aspect of your players, we can sit back on our talking heads chairs and go on the internet and be like, we shouldn't allow these battle tomes until they have their FAQ. But the practicality aspect of it is do you know how many people I go to a tournament and they don't even know an FAQ exists?
Exactly.
Right.
And then what happens if it disappeared?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like the Tzeentch FAQ and errata were the large errata and FAQ were the biggest erratas in FAQ leading up to the new book. And at LVO, they were gone. We couldn't reference them. So you had to have printed them out before the new FAQs dropped.
So this is something that TOs that are committed to no books pre-FAQ are allowed. They could commit to that, but they have to commit to that, have those FAQs ahead of time.
You have to be well prepared ahead of time, very much.
And so this puts a lot an extra burden on the TOs, perhaps. Like,
because like I wouldn't blame a player for like they're like, oh, show me your rule, and you're like I'm a digital guy. Like I have all my rules digitally in Azure. I love Azure for that, and I buy every book in Azure.
Yeah.
But so that's why I was like, shit, Scott, if somebody's relying on Azure like I would for all of your rules, you're fucked. Like you literally, this happened actually last LVO. The Skaven War Scrolls were updated on Saturday of the GT, which started on Friday. So my buddy playing Skaven had his rules changed in Azure halfway through the event.
What if you're like misremembering your rules because you ground your games, you did what you're supposed to do as a diligent player, you got in like 10 10 requisite games. I think 5's the number if you're experienced enough. You got in your list to like memorize your scrolls and you're going, and then like the app changes because your opponent, that doesn't work that way. I thought it worked this way, and you go, no, man, I've been playing this army a while. This is how it works. And then like you go to load up Azir to show them the war scroll, and now it's different.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's kind of what happened at LVO last year. Is my buddy playing like he was using Storm Fiends with all Warpfire projectors, but guess what? The new he was actually had to turn off auto updating on his phone and make sure he didn't update the app because if he updated, the war scrolls that he could prove his opponent rules would be wrong from what he was using because he's using old rules.
Yeah.
And so that's actually logistically, I see. It's this one interesting battle where GW is catching up with the digital age and providing us with really fast rules updates. But then people want to wait till the FAQ, which I like agree with. But then from a logistical standpoint, it can be frustrating to deal with how quickly things happen.
It's interesting because LVO did, quote unquote, by like the internet's summarization. I think they did the right thing, quote unquote, not allowing
the right thing.
KO to be played. I think the consensus, most people will be like, oh yeah, that's the way we should do it going forward.
Well, I think what LVO did is they just had a flat 3 weeks before the event, anything released not allowed. Right. So that was their rule.
Standard FLG stuff for their events going for many years.
Yeah. But again, it's whether it was intentional or unintentional because they had their hard line, it still ended up being like you look at some of the blowback from like bigger or different events where they're like people were allowing the new Tzeentch obviously is the one getting all the heat, so we'll talk about Tzeentch. Like all the new Tzeentch is being allowed and it's not even FAQ'd yet. Rabble. Like, and you guys didn't do that, but then from an actual like application and logistics standpoint, you struggled with it at the tournament in real time.
Yes, very much. And there was actually
players are going to have a trouble with that too. I don't know about you guys, but when a new battle tome or whatever comes out, I have to do like a mental dumping of the old rules. Like I'm not going to hold, two different versions of the Plague Monk scroll in my head.
Yeah.
I only get to have one.
I call this jettisoning in a memory.
I'm starting to learn the new rules because that's what I want to do. And if it's 2 weeks into the new rule set, I've fairly purged the old rules. So it's like with an event coming up, it's almost like, oh, I have to not even look at my new to make sure I don't confuse my mind going into them.
Yeah.
So,
I guess, I mean, I feel like I think there's a solution, by the way. I think that the solution can be different per event, and it's ultimately going to fall on the TOs to make the call, but then you're going to have to do the work because players are going to be players. And that's not as a negative or a dig on being a player. I am a player. It's hard to hold players to a standard that is uniform when you have these sort of plates that you're spinning and juggling, right? Like it's difficult to do that. So that extra work falls on the TOs.
Yeah, well, and a lot of that is now if we're talking, something like the LVO, 170 players plus. That's a lot to lay on.
And I'm showing up to drink. I'm showing up to drink beer and play craps after the day, right? Like,
right.
And then you have my fucking war scrolls get updated midway through the tournament. Yeah. Like, I fucking don't know. Like, what do I, Right.
Yeah. But on the other hand, most of the time we play in tournaments, they're going to be RTTs, 1 day, 3-rounders, stuff like that. And then it's a little bit different. Like I will often allow rules the day of on an RTT, but then you just got to watch those players. Like, okay, you're going to play this the day.
When you're saying RTT, real quick, define RTT for people who may not.
Oh, sure. 1 day, 3-round tournament. So that's, I think the old term is Rogue Trader Tournament, but it basically just means a 1 day local tournament.
Okay. Continue.
Yeah. So at our RTTs, typically like the rules drop that day. Like for a good example was the day that 8th edition 40K came out. Mm-hmm. I ran a tournament using the 8th edition rule. And so we literally built lists between every round. And so that was actually a period of time to allow for that. Just again, to get people a chance to explore the new rules and play with them.
But that becomes the shtick of that tournament, which is what's cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. But even in normal RTTs, like I'm gonna generally allow things the day of, but for a GT and especially bigger GTs, we're nowadays we're having people have a list submittal date. It's like maybe a week before the tournament, and so we do have to have these rules cutoffs. And so even if you don't want to, there's that window, whether it's a 1-day window because the new rules dropped on the Saturday of the tournament, or a 1-week window because I made you submit your list a week early, or in the case of the LVO, a 3-week because we've established a cutoff. It's no matter what, there's a window. And as Garret said, your rules drop the day of. Whoops. You have your app on auto update. You don't even know the new rules are coming out. Whoops. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, something like, a subtle change, like changing from unmodified to modified sixes could be a huge, like, that's for me, where, like, I thought my ability triggered on unmodifieds or something, and then, or rather, it'd be the other way. I thought my abilities triggered on modified sixes, and the day of, or a week prior, I memorized it a certain way. I'm like, yeah. And my opponent's like, isn't it unmodified? And they don't even technically know, because they don't play my army. But they just know the context of the game is usually things tend to be unmodified, right? Now. And then I go, I thought it was modified. And then, I open up the app and it tells me I was wrong. Now I'm, second guessing my own fucking memory. And I had built a list around +1s to hit and shit. And you have this, fucking weird dissonance, this Mandela effect of it really was a certain way.
Or did I read it that way because I really wanted it to be
right. And that gray area. And this comes back to something we brought up earlier. I don't think, for whatever reason, I think we have the lordly, the gentlemanly version of wargaming with Age of Sigmar. I truly love this caliber of player.
Less beardiness.
Right. I truly love this caliber of player. I don't think players who end up getting their rules wrong at the table are willfully malicious or cheaters. I tend to, if it's Magic the Gathering, I think you're being a dick and probably cheating. But with Age of Sigmar, I don't. I think that most people do kind of get their stuff wrong. It's difficult to...
Except Garret. Garret is the only person might play a game of Age of Sigmar and get every rule right through the entire game. Maybe him and Jeremy. But yeah, the rest of us normal mortals certainly make at least a few
normal human mistakes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I give my opponents that benefit of the doubt.
I actually have to burst your bubble, John. This happened to me at a so I was playing Sylvaneth, and most of their spells require line of sight, like regrowth, where you need to have a unit sight to heal, and Virtuous Harmony need the unit line of sight to recover. And so I looked through and most of the spells required line of sight, and so I had in my brain associated that summoning a wood requires line of sight. And so I had actually played another Sylvaneth player and told him, oh, by the way, when you're trying to cast to summon a wood, if you're inside your own wood, you don't have line of sight, you can't create the wood. And then a week after the tournament, I went in and I read it and I'm like, shit.
I lied to my opponent on that.
I just lied. We were playing a mirror match, Sylvaneth was...
Yeah.
I looked at it, probably wouldn't have mattered, but I felt so bad. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
I was like,
now,
I thought...
What did you do? Did you have the extreme overreaction, fall on the sword, delete your scores from the tournament, sell your army, quit the game?
No, I just silently, I didn't...
You didn't have a...
I've been holding this guilt since. I'll say that. I've been holding it in me that it's I cheat. I've been holding this guilt that shit, I told a guy a wrong rule so confidently, I changed his mind and we didn't look it up. Yeah. And I was wrong.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah,
I won't share my story. I'm not ready to out myself yet. But
to Mr. Mephisto's point, we're all human. We make mistakes. People get rules wrong. So when you're having these things where you thought it was some way, and then you look up and it's different, was that because the app updated? Or are you just adding things in your memory that you didn't know?
The human memory.
I'm going to offer you one real quick. So, I played Age of Sigmar as long as it's been out. I run, I'm somewhere above 70 tournaments that I've ran, right? All this experience, play every week, all the time. Last night, I'm there for League Night. I'm playing 1,000-point Nurgle. I haven't played Nurgle in a while. I go to make a charge with my demon
See,
friend.
this is why you didn't get sick, is you've made adequate offerings to pop a Nurgle.
I have.
Okay,
And so
continue.
I have to make a 7-inch charge, right? So it's Nurgle's number, right? 7-inch charge. I'm like, oh, I got this. I roll the dice, and I get a 5. I'm like, no problem. I'm going to spend that command point, and I'm going to re-roll that charge. I re-roll it, and got a 5 again. And here is where I got things wrong. I said, you know what? I'm going to spend another command point, and I'm going to re-roll that again.
What?
What? Right?
You can't re-roll a re-roll. You can't re-roll a re-roll.
I know. So I re-roll the re-roll. And got a
5. Oh,
I got a 4. So then I said, my opponent goes, you know what, John? You should have used different dice. So I pick up a different set of dice, I roll them, and got snake eyes. And he says, you know what? You should have used different color dice. So I pick up the different color dice, I roll them, and got a 3. So 5 times in a row, I failed to get a 7.
You were not meant to make that charge, my friend.
Because I cheated when I re-rolling it. Papa Nurgle was like this. Then I go to my plague bearers next to him, got a 12 on the charge. They had a 3-inch charge to make.
Yeah, no, that's how it always goes. No, I see that's fantastic. This brings us back to something that I one point that I really latched onto when I was listening back to some of your podcasts was you were talking about this sort of beardy play versus like above the table play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I assume beardy play. I haven't heard the term beardy play before, and maybe some of my listeners haven't. So you want to describe what beardy play is versus? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, beardy play. It's the gotchas. It's the
neck
the
beardy
rule on the edge, more in my favor. It's your opponent asks you how a unit works, and you tell them one of the 2 things it does, but don't mention the thing that's really going to jack them up.
Is the beardy play when I say, "Do you have any teleport spells?" and they say no, but they have a teleport ability? You know?
Yes.
They just like
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So I'm a big believer. I talk about the above table. And what I say is, when I play against somebody, I want to win because of tactics, strategy, and dice, and maybe list building. But I don't want to win because I've taken advantage of your lack of knowledge of the rules. You're not understanding what my units do because I've pulled secret maneuvers that you don't know are possible out there. No, I want to win like as if we were both expert generals, as if we both had complete knowledge of each other's armies, and then tactically we have our mind war, right? That's ultimately what this game is. It's a mind war between 2 people. Well, I don't want my mind war to be that, I pulled a bag over your head. That's not a mind war.
Yeah, and this comes into that insecurity that did I truly earn the trophy if I cheated to get it, right? Like,
yep.
No, I actually have 3 quotes here, and they're all by different people, and they're all kind of saying the same thing. And I'm going to start with Vince Venturella because he's of probably the most notoriety or the most fame. He said, "I want to win because of asymmetrical," I'm going to put it in brackets, tactics, not asymmetrical knowledge of the rules. And that was like, he said this to me on a RantCast some while back, and I just like, and it blew my mind.
That is so clean. That is the cleanest way to say that.
Yeah, he's Vince. Like he's the GOAT. It's just like, he put into words what I had been trying to say about Age of Sigmar for so long in a single sentence. It was this like I don't want to beat you because I gotcha'd. Like, I will get you with a tactic, like you thought I was going to charge this guy and then I charged that guy instead. But I don't want to
bait and switch.
Yeah, like a little, like I'm playing cagey. I love playing cagey. That's my jam. But like I don't want to get you because like I'm like, oh, but you forgot to roll your battle shot. Like some stupid thing. That's dumb. When John Wenger beat me at PACA, him having his model within 3 inches, it was in plain view. It's right there, right? Pylon phase came, like, he fought me with witch elves, I murdered them all, like, and stuff like that, and the model's just, like, there. It wasn't that I didn't know how pylons work, or that I didn't know that I'm locked in combat with a model within 3 inches. Like, he just, like, was really skilled with that combat and those activations. Like, that he was being tactically sound. I got outplayed, right? Like, that's how it should be. Like,
and that's a satisfying loss. Like, you can lose under that circumstance and not feel bad.
Yeah, because I go, I got outplayed. Next time I play better. Like, that's all it is. Right? Like, next time I remember that. Or next time I don't get locked into that combat. Or next time I pile in this way. Like, that's how that goes. Right? Like, you get to learn the lesson and play better going forward when your opponent beats you honestly and above the table, using your nomenclature here. Right?
Yep.
So this is what Vince said. And then one of our sort of like regional Detroit Warhammer. I think you guys probably know Detroit Warhammer even in LVO and stuff. Like Andrea, she said, "I want to beat you when we both use all our rules." Like, and I think that's another. That's saying this again. Where like if I beat you and we didn't all use all of our abilities, like, did I beat you? You know, like, we rolled dice for a reason. I'm fine with dice beating me, too. You know, like, the dice beat me. Hey, man, it wasn't meant to be. I fail all of my charges all day long. You know, I'm just going to drink an extra beer, go play the next
laugh it off.
Right.
Yeah, so John has actually commented on a way I play a lot, given that comment actually hit me. I actually tend to tell my opponent their own rule to my detriment.
Yeah.
I will be like, by the way, did you remember your prayers? Make sure you cast all of your prayers. Oh, do you still have a spell to cast? And like, we'll be in the movement phase. I'm like, do you want to just do this thing real quick? Like, I will make sure my opponent does all the things that they forgot to do. Like, I will gladly let someone do a hero phase ability in the movement phase or something, as long as it's not way like we can't roll back.
Once you can't
easily.
Extrapolate the changes that would have I call it once the game state has changed, and that doesn't mean the phase has changed. Once
it's just like
game state changes and we've started to like scoop models and stuff like that, then it starts to go to a point where I can't reverse engineer it to allow it to happen. Like, but if you just sippy cupped your witch elves, I'm gonna let you sippy cup your goddamn witch elves. Like,
exactly.
You know,
like if you're about to enter the combat phase and you're like, oh, I forgot, did I declare that they sippy cupped? I'm like, you would have been in range, just fucking take it.
Yeah, take
like,
your sippy cup.
Yeah, so I will but there are times I will actively tell my opponent, hey, remember to do this thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I will, because I want both of us to use all of our rules. I don't want to beat you because, I mean, the way I see it is that, especially in tournaments, we have 2.5 to 3 hours of play to play a game that's meant to take 5. Like, there's so much focus needed to play this game that you will forget things. Things will get forgotten.
Well, the human memory is terrible, by the way. Like,
exactly.
The human memory is like one of the worst things.
And we're working at a super fast pace because you only have an hour and a half to play your game at best. And that's a 3-hour game. You get an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. So you have an hour and a half to play 5 turns, which is a hero phase, movement phase, shooting phase, charge phase, and combat phase with all the dice rolling. You get an hour and a half to do 5 of those. Mm-hmm. So people will forget things. They'll just move forward and not do something like, oh, I forgot to move this guy over. Yeah, just go for it. Or it's like, I want to beat you because you played your best and you did everything you were supposed to, and that. So I like it. I like that phrase. We both play with all of our rules. It's not so much that it's like there's no gotcha hammer. It's that we both played without forgetting anything.
Right. And this brings me to my last quote, which I actually captured from your stream. You might recognize it, and you can tell me who said this. I like to win fairly and honestly, but also like to win knowing my opponent played the best game they could. And this was Captain... Jeremy.
Jeremy?
Yeah, this was Jeremy when you were kind of running back his interview. This is that, coach... I don't want to say coach... I'm not going to tell you the best line of play to beat me, but I'm going to tell you the rules you should be using.
Exactly.
Does that make sense? I'm not going to say you should charge this guy and you should target priority, hit this thing. I'm not going to tell you that stuff. But I will tell you if you miss a rule. I'm like, oh, did you want to cast a spell? You still have a spell on that unit.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I don't want to beat you if you haven't got to use all your rules. I don't want to beat you because I gotcha. Gotchas on, tactics is different from gotchas on rules, right? Gotchas on rules is, it feels like cheating. Gotchas on tactics is, you outplayed me.
Exactly.
You held the killer eye.
It's always say are you playing against your opponent, playing with your opponent? And I think we got to learn to play with our opponent. we're playing a game with a person, not against an enemy.
I actually had a conversation with a buddy of mine talking about how he had this opponent that he felt very much like they weren't playing the game together. And I like the phrase opponent versus combatant. Like, he's not your opponent, he is your combatant. Like, you're fighting him, but you guys are playing the same game. You're not you're not opposing him.
This is almost like a fencing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like a fencing mentality where you're just trying to like beat the other person. You're not trying to like destroy them or style them.
You're not. But it's also like from a personality standpoint, or just like when two generals meeting versus like two fighters meeting or something like that.
This comes back to the snifter of brandy thing where we're just
exactly like we're all playing the same game here. Let's not like let's not hate each other personally. Yeah. Like, let's not try to like beat the other person's mind like personally. Like, they're not your opponent.
Yeah.
They're the other combatant.
This is the difference between a good conversation with some back and forth and a argument, right?
Exactly. Or like a fight. An argument I say would be a good an argument is actually a duel of logics, but a fight is not a good thing.
Right. I break it down. We're doing semantics here, but I usually go debate versus argument.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
A debate is where we're just logically sparring. An argument is like I'm making fun of your mother. Like an argument is what you have with your spouse or significant other. A debate is what you have with like colleagues over the best course of action or your friends.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like this game is I like when this game is a debate, not an argument.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that comes back to, I think, establishing some common ground, communicating what type of game you like. You get a point.
I figured out what the words. You don't want to beat your opponent. You want to best them.
Hey, there we go. I like that.
That's the one I like. You don't want to beat your opponent. You want to best them. You want to be better than what they are. You're not trying to make them worse.
Yeah,
and that's usually true. There's been a couple opponents where I have wanted to beat them afterwards, but that's pretty.
This comes down to my difference between being arrogant and being condescending. Mm-hmm. Arrogance amuses me, by the way. Like, I am amused when people are arrogant. It's The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, right? Like,
exactly.
He is arrogant. He's boastful. He's over the top. But there's a difference between like being that and like talking down to everybody. And the difference in talking yourself up and talking everybody down. Like,
exactly.
Being a good opponent means bringing the game up, right? Not bringing your opponent down.
Yes.
And I think this is something that competition for the sake of competition, I think, is one of the beautiful evolutions of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
We can split hairs over where I end up on the like competitive spectrum, and it's like a competitive spectrum, not a continuum between like narrative and hobby and all. We can debate about that, but when it gets right down to it, I think competition for competition's sake is kind of a beautiful thing. We used to have to like war to literally survive with our environment, right?
Right.
Like you had to do that to survive. Like you had to like the competition came from actual survival. And now we're at such a great point in human history where I can talk to people on both the coasts from the middle of America and have this great conversation because we have awesome technology. And so like I don't need to like fight jaguars and shit. But like I can put toy soldiers on a battlefield and still get that adrenaline, that serotonin and dopamine of accomplishing something for essentially accomplishment's sake. And I think that's beautiful. I think whether it's painting, it can be painting too. Like I need to just execute painting this model, painting the hell out of this. I have a concept, I'm painting towards it, I put it on the table, and the guy goes, "Hey, that looks like Dark Souls." And I go, "Hell yeah, I was going for Dark Souls." Right? Like I have competed with myself to prove something. I think it's beautiful. I'm the best type, man.
No, I think you hit it right there. Like, competition is a natural thing, and here we are. This is one of the things I like about Warhammer. Like in my past, I used to do, and I still do, aquarium. Former president of the Silicon Valley Aquarium Society, spoke at like Monterey Bay aquariums, different aquariums like that. But as I got more into aquariums, I started getting into aquarium competitions, which are photography competitions.
You need to explain to me what an aquarium... Like, I don't know if aquarium is some, like, weird... like fetish thing where it's like it's like a burlesque show in an aquarium, because I know a little bit about you now, or if it's like actually like building aquariums and shit where you got like stuff in it, like so what is an aquarium competition? Like, you need to walk me back a little bit and tell me what this is.
Okay, sure. So an aquarium competition is generally like a photography competition.
Okay.
Where you are taking pictures of your aquarium, and mostly it'll involve live. And
the aquarium is not a burlesque show. It's live.
It is
plants.
not.
Okay.
It is an actual box with fish.
Okay.
But my point being is that, you know, I was into aquariums, got into aquarium competition, international photography competitions, breeding fish, all these things. You know, almost anything you do in life can have a competitive aspect. I personally, and this is, I'm going to throw this right there. One of the reasons I love Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, all of these, is we're all general. When I was doing the aquarium thing, every time I would join a club, they wanted to put me in charge. They're like, John, you talk a lot. We're going to make you the president. I'm like, I just want to kick back and relax. And I come into Age of Sigmar and Warhammer, and everybody's trying to be a general. So nobody's trying to put me in charge of anything. I just get to talk to a bunch of likewise, you know, people that like to go out and do things and think and command their armies and all of that. And that's one of the things that I've really found about this gaming community, is this like-minded, like everybody's a general, and so we all get along as generals. All that, you know, I want to say leadership, because that's not necessarily like everyone's there, but it's that generalship. You want to take command of things. So anyways,
I mean, except for the fact that, John, you have been put in charge of running your leagues, tournaments, and running the entire Bay Area scene for you. You know, you've just been put in charge.
I can't. My entire life, that's like every year I was in school, I got made class president. I never ran for class president once in my life, ever. And people would just vote. I'm like, again, really? So, no. It just comes from talking. Actually, I used to do competitive speaking too. I got some trophies in my office from doing competitive freeform speaking. It's just like I say, everything out there, it has competition. If you like competition, you're going to get, like, I'm telling you, I'm going to find a whiskey competition somewhere.
There are for brewing. I don't know about drinking. No, I
mean, there's like competitive competitions for like wine tasting, right?
Are there?
Right?
There's got to be, you get like who's the best sommelier or what.
Yeah, but they're like all dealing with like made up things. It's just like, I guess games are made up. Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why don't you just do the same thing for whiskey?
Because we're talking about Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I know, everything's made up, and the points don't matter. Everything competitive is whose line is it anyway, right? Like, the points are made up, or the points don't matter, and everything's made up. Yeah, I think competition for competition's sake, and when I go to a tournament, my first competitor is myself. Like, I'm testing myself first, and I think that helps me keep a level head against opponents. You know, that allows me to learn the lesson in every game. If I lose to an opponent, I first go, where did I lose the game myself? And then I'm able to just respect my opponent, you know? Like, if I can learn the lesson every game, then I've never lost a game truly. This is where, like, you talked about, like, the whole, like, everything's competitive a little bit before in terms of that. And I'm like, yeah, but if my first competitor is myself, then I'm always playing to beat myself in a sense, like to always get better, to always progress forward. And yeah, go on. You're holding your lips.
I'm just not. I'm avoiding any snarky comments. I'm letting you go on.
All right. How many whiskeys are you in now?
It's only my second. But they were doubles.
So, I've got a couple of questions from chat. Can you read chat right here?
I personally cannot see any chat.
I can. John, why did the guy who likes to talk do a stream with player mics and no casters?
Because I couldn't see what was going on the table. That's what it really came down to. I went in and I was planning to like live announce and comment, and Garret and I would have been yippity yapping. And when I realized I couldn't see the table, that's when I just encouraged the players to get talking. And from my perspective, they were like, every time I went to say something, I had to turn the players down to talk. So that's how it came. And then I got to do at least the interviews at the end, which was super fun. Actually, that was a pure joy of the entire experience.
Will the Army Painter table be back next year? Probably. I mean,
Yeah.
the reality is that Frontline Gaming is a business, and I'm guessing Army Painter spent a bunch of money to get that on there because they were sponsoring it. I actually find this to be. I had an interesting discussion with somebody about streaming and putting logos on there, because there's this push to have like clear objective markers versus ones with logos on there. And I actually like the logos of on for streams. Like I was watching a 40K stream of the Pro Tabletop event, and I really, from a watching the streaming perspective, coming at it from a business standpoint, I liked that there was like the Army Painter and like whatever wargaming things, these people were able to utilize objective markers as a way of having sponsorship. And when you're on a stream, those like sponsorship deals can help pay for things, and they're a great way to get eyes on things. And I feel like it was a really unique and cool way to get sponsorship onto a tabletop wargaming stream. And I really enjoyed that from a like competitive, like T-sports kind of way. While I had talked to another guy who's like, it broke my narrative, and I didn't like that, there was these logos kind of blocking the terrain. So there's a difference in opinion, but to me personally, if it's a competitive event and you're trying to push this like T-sports narrative, sponsorships and having like logos that are built into the game itself is a great way to do that. And so I liked that.
So I feel like there's a couple questions compiled here. So T-sport, I did hear the word T-sports there. I've got a couple things here I want to kind of circle back to as I was exiting there. But from the T-sports thing, so you talked about like I think we're on the painter table thing here, yeah?
Yeah, the Army Painter table. That's where I was talking about.
Yeah, so the Army Painter table. I've had people who love those little 6-inch templates that you lay down for.
I am one of them.
And I've had people who despise them.
Yes, and that's kind of one of the things I was bringing up. That I talked to somebody who he hated how it broke the narrative. It like you had this logo on here that like blocked the terrain, and it did not feel like it fit in the environment. And I liked that. I actually liked the logos because from a streaming perspective, it's clear. You can see it very easily because it contrasts with the terrain. It doesn't blend in, and so people can easily see it from when you're trying to talk about it. And on top of that, it's a great way to throw sponsorship logos on there.
Yeah, you could. I want to throw out there though that I personally, now taking the narrative and the graphics aside, I like using the mats. I have my own set, but they do change the way the game is played.
Yes,
they fundamentally change what's happening on the tabletop. One, we can talk about being faster just because I don't have to continuously measure where's the edge of my thing. But I find that with those on there, I toe in objective zones like it's going out of style. Like literally having those mats there amps up my ability to do certain tactics that I like with my Skaven in particular. And so there is no way of denying that they are affecting how I move around the board.
I actually have a friend who doesn't like the objective because he feels it helps his opponents because they are able to see if they are in the objectives, and he believes that he can ballpark it and measure himself. So he would rather not have the objective so that his opponents have to guess. And he can toe in himself knowing where it is hidden, as opposed to his opponent being able to take advantage of it.
I'm borderline against the objective markers, but you just made me for them. Because fuck that guy wanting imbalanced knowledge.
Exactly.
Right?
Like I like them. Like I like the objective contention. Like measuring from the edge, and you're like, oh, is this guy in? It's dude, is your model on it?
I just round. Well, that's where things I usually round in favor of my opponent, and then I.
But like,
yeah, I
know it's those times when it's like I do too. Like I usually round, but there's a lot of times where it's like it's a really close, very important call. That it's like or even rounding, like how
If
much
it
do you
came down
round
to
before?
if it came down to a single model,
I
if
usually
you
roll
got
a die up.
if you got me by a single model, you got me, dude.
Yeah, I usually just go,
I should have screened better from a single model. That's where but that's my first competitors myself mentality.
Mhm.
Where
Oh,
I
yeah.
should have been better here to not lose by one
Right.
model. You know,
Well,
that's
and nowadays we have the rightful ruler. I don't know if you've played with that at all, but
The laser?
that's that advanced. That's the one that it's the augmented reality on the table, so you can place your objectives and you can only see the zones with your phone. And so you can lay down charge lines and objectives and flanking lines, and then you see them through the augmented reality of your phone, but they're only for you.
That's really fucking metal, by the way. Fuck yeah, technology.
Yeah.
I
use
do
it, by
side-
the way,
I
as a
do side a
TO
little-
to measure tables. Like I'll walk up to somebody's table and drop a virtual reality marker on that table and do quick measurements to make sure things are legit on a table.
Yeah. So I do want to say, and I'm disagreeing with you, but I don't disrespect the opinion, if that makes sense.
Yes.
No
okay,
problems,
cool.
of course.
Yeah, and now we're gonna go to fisticuffs later. No, I do side a little bit with Tristan. I don't mind the clear objective markers so much, but I'm still I don't mind the extra 3 seconds of measuring and then rounding in favor of my opponent, as long as we've established the same courtesies. I don't think logos on the table is the way to go. That screams more NASCAR than NFL to me. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I'm okay with we all know what this game is. You guys are on here you should be saying the name of your podcast in between every sentence.
You're right. I should probably have a sticker.
Yeah, you should have all over. It should just be plastered. We all know what this is. When it comes to talking on each other's podcasts, I don't consider other podcasters competition. I consider them collaborators because we're all pushing the agenda of Age of Sigmar as the greatest game ever.
Exactly.
As far as I'm concerned. And you might say something that I don't agree with, but now I get to disagree with you, and then I get to make a podcast because of that. We're all collaborating. It's not competition. So that's the one time there you go. We got there it is. So real quick, what podcast are you guys from?
The Wide World of Wargaming.
Yeah.
Age of Sigmar segment.
Yeah. So, no, the thing is we all know sponsorship game and all that stuff when it comes to T-sports and esports, 100%. But when it comes to the table actually having logos on it, to where even the NFL doesn't currently put Red Bull in the center of on the 50-yard marker, even they don't put the fucking logos of all their sponsorships on every 10-yard, and you can pay for the 10-yard marker here, and then oh yeah, the 10-yard marker brought to you by Aldi's, and then there's just a fucking Aldi's as the 10-yard marker. That's where so like I said, I don't disrespect your opinion, but I do disagree with that. I don't think the tables themselves should become a NASCAR logos everywhere thing. I think the tables should stay the field of play. The immersion I do think is sacred there. And then, by the way, every single time a player's moving his models, just fucking plug Frontline Wargaming or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
All the time, every time, anytime there's dead air, talk about your sponsors, cut the commercials. I don't give a shit about that. We all know what this is. We all know the sponsorship game is part of being a professional league or a professional table sports game, whatever it is, whatever the end goal is for people who want T-sports, that's fine. But the sponsorship logos on the tables, I think that's in too much of the game.
This one wasn't subtle. That was a giant.
Oh yeah, that one was
center of the screen, and it was part of the issue for me. Was it was too
reflective?
Light.
Yeah, it was
reflective. Yeah. So if you remember a few years ago when Frontline Gaming came out with their fat mats, the fat mats have a small logo in the lower corner, so you would still see it, but it wasn't there in the middle all over everything. So
or having a graphic overlay on the stream and not the table.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
I think that would be a better way of doing it. So you lay the graphic overlay on the screen, just like the first down markers in football. Lay it over the screen, not the table. The table should be the bastion of two gentlemen, warriors, generals fighting each other. But I don't want. Just I don't play sci-fi because I know how reality can get exaggerated into sci-fi. I play fantasy instead. I don't want your reality in my game. You know, like not in that moment. And again, I don't disrespect your opinion. I just disagree with it. And you know, feel free to like throw shade and make fun of me.
Yeah, no, I'll say the same. I don't disrespect your opinion. I just slightly disagree with it. Just because, I mean, coming at it from a business perspective, it gets the most eyeballs. Like you're constantly having those logos on there, and people look before they hear.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, like having those logos on there, people like the fact that the guy asked, "Are you going to have the army painter table on there again?" means the army painter's in his mind. He knows army painter was there, and the army like it just comes down to marketing psychology. I think having those eyeballs on there from a business standpoint is smart,
right?
Which is why I respect your opinion. I disagree.
Yeah. What about an over? Do you think an overlay would be a happy medium though? Like blasting logos over the table instead of like putting them on the tables for the players.
I'd want to see it before I can see how it goes. Like I'd have to see how it works before, because like an overlay runs into other issues, camera angles, and how it might disrupt the game. Because if you have an overlay going and all of a sudden you switch a camera angle, it could be blocking the viewing. Like you'd have to do it smart. So I'd want to see it.
You do it like I do on Twitch. It's just a transparency.
So I'd have to see how much it impacts before I could have an opinion.
Yeah,
and I'm open to seeing it.
And that mat that they were using was definitely a 40K mat. It had like all the lines out on it, 40K deployments and what have you. And what people couldn't see on the stream was right behind us was a giant, what do you call that thing? Like a wall that was, a giant advertisement for Army Painter. Like a backdrop. That was a big giant backdrop, freestanding backdrop. It was like 10 feet wide and 8 feet tall that said Army Painter on it. So it was definitely a whole zone that was going on as far as that goes.
Yeah, like I said, we all know what this is. Like if we want to make, I can see the point that I want T-Sports to just exist at all, right? Like we're already past arguing about T-Sports whether it should be a thing or not. If we're already saying like then we already know that sponsorship is pretty much the name of the game.
Yes,
like we just know that. Even like people, I guarantee I've had people come on RantCast that they've never seen it before. They don't give a shit. They just want to like talk about their show for a little while. Like I don't fault them. Like I have my agenda for asking you on the show. I want to like pick your brain about the thing, or I want to make a joke, or whatever the case may be. We all know that's the game, right? I just think that when the sponsorship interferes with the game for the players, like that's where I come in. That's where me, the talking head, comes in. I should be, and you made a great point about the visual, like side of advertisement. Like visual is advertising.
Key. Exactly.
Right. It's what like people go have PhDs in this shit. There are scientific fields for obey, consume. Like we know that, right? Like so you're not wrong. But I feel like there's a way that we can play the game of sponsorships and still just kind of protect the players, and that's where
I'm open to that.
Between
what's the balance
and not enough,
right? And and that's where we argue. That's that's where we debate. That's a worthy discussion. Yes. Where's the balance? Because if you
I'm open to being proven wrong, and I'm open to other options. But right now, I feel like those hard copy objective markers or mats or whatever are the best option for sponsorship deals, which is where I think T-Sports
you could have
right now.
You could have like the objective markers are the sponsors. I say player jerseys. Like,
but the players aren't being seen much is the issue. The table when you stream a tabletop game, the table is what's being seen. Like when you brought up the NFL thing, they don't mark the NFL field. But the fucking sides of the game is all marked, and the camera pans on that side a shit ton. Well, then, we see the sides of the NFL a shit ton.
And then they're playing at like
the AT&T arena,
the AT&T Thunderdome. Like,
so it's like, but the thing is the way current AOS games are streamed, the table is all you see, so you can't have outside things.
Perhaps, I mean, is the right answer actually evolving how we cover the table?
Yes, I think that's the right answer.
Right.
Honestly,
I think we agree there. We need to evolve how we see the table.
I agree with that. Moving back to the AMA, why didn't y'all have a table boss? Space, people. Like we didn't have the
Well,
time
we
to set up a
kind of
table
heard
boss.
we kind of heard a
Yeah.
little bit earlier that like you guys got shunted a little bit into your space
Yeah.
from 40K, and I
Like
think
it was
that's
hard to have. Yeah, it was hard to have a table boss because honestly, where the computer desk was like 2 feet or 5 feet from the table, so there wasn't really a point to having a table boss, and we didn't want to interrupt the game much. And we were kind of shoved in a corner. Yeah, it wouldn't have been practical, honestly.
Elise, I do not have any integrity versus selling out. If you want me to wear a fucking Red Bull cap every rantcast forever, I will. Red Bull, call my people. Like, no.
Yeah, I've sold out before. I was I was sponsored in 40K by LED lighting company, and so I have a ridiculous amount of lights in my armies nowadays. So
we made a joke where we swear half the games he won was opponent was blinded from being able to see the table, not actually playing the game.
That makes sense.
it was a factor.
Yeah. No. So pit boss, you answered the table boss. Was that it for the AMAs? I think
that's all I saw.
It was well done. Way to handle the AMA. I saw from the look of John's face the first time I walked away from the camera, where he's just like, like I'm like, clearly, you're the one who researched RantCast. It's a joke that this happens. It doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen often.
I did my own research. I watched at least the first 10 minutes of like 5 different videos.
No, the problem is I thought I had you guys pegged for a 4-beer rantcast, not an 8-beer rantcast. So that was
fair enough. Fair enough.
So what's something LVO on the AOS side wishes to improve for next year? I think this is a good question.
Scott wants to hit 250 players. The fun thing about Scott is he is a TO who sends out lots of feedback forms and takes feedback very well. He takes criticism very well. And so he's always looking to improve his format. He's always looking to improve how he runs things, and he likes to get feedback from the people who actually did the event. So as far as running the event, he wants to hit more people. He has some thoughts on improving the packet itself. But overall, I think it went fairly well. Otherwise, for improving the stream, I'll
tell you a couple things from my perspective, at least. First off, this was my first year running this live stream, despite any professional experience. So one thing I did was actually pull down OBS, and I've kind of put it into my software cycle at work. So I'm gonna basically by next year I will have mastered that software. I'll be my second time going in to be able to, now I'm not the guy they asked to do this. I'm the guy returning to do it. So I'm hoping to get a little more control over things, even details. Like I designed my own overlays at work, and there's some things about that overlay that might make it easier to work with as the caster. So that's where I'm looking for. I'm literally looking for feedback. I've gone back through all the live streams, all the audio, and I've looked at things like volume, gain, mic crackling, perspectives, interactions with the players, what the players have to say, when would be the good time for me to talk over the players, all these things.
Movement phase.
And looked at it from a very critical perspective so that next year can do a better job of that whole management. And I'm going to go into next year, not just with my buddy Garret and Random Adon as my backup. I want to have a team set of here's my primary folks, and here's a couple backup people in case people don't show and are set up, and have a little more established schedule. So that's what I'm looking for, is to actually take the entire thing and crank it up to a professional level.
Okay.
So on that, I'll just put. I mean, unless you have anything in particular you want on that, I'll talk about my improvement.
I just want to say, if you need a color guy, I have a resume. I'm pretty skilled. If you need somebody,
I don't worry about color. I accept all people.
No, I meant like a color commentary. So one thing you didn't know you were talking about earlier on when you're like, oh, we're both like this type of person and we talk about this type of thing. What you didn't realize is you had a play-by-play. You had 2 play-by-play mans. You needed a play-by-play and a color. And by the way, most proper coverage has moved towards like a 3 caster format, because you have essentially a stats guy, or a trivia guy, or a background guy, or girl, and then you have color, and then you have play-by-play. Now, Age of Sigmar is played in slow motion, so I feel like you need extra color commentary.
Exactly. That was one of the things that we talked about, is that we needed that.
I did this shit. I made money shoutcasting. I don't know if I mentioned that at the intro.
Well, maybe you should just go to LVO and join John streaming.
Maybe I should
just. I'm talking about.
Maybe I should just sell out entirely and wear a Frontline Gaming just tattoo on my face. And no, shoutcasting is it's an art. This is the thread I've wanted through this whole thing is, it's hard to do it right. Everyone's got opinions on coverage, but it's hard. There are logistical things that people just don't even consider. When it comes to
hell, our lighting was awful. The normal, like, we had to use LED lights to shine in, and that's because the overhead lighting we were given was really bad, and that alone, like, probably is one of the things that caused the Army Painter logo to be such a distraction, because they had to have these bright ass LEDs shining on the table because there was no great ambiance light.
Right.
Yeah, we had no
those
control
sorts of
over
things.
light, no control over camera position, camera angle.
You actually have to get in like your own spots at that point.
Yeah.
And some bounce cards, and like you need to, if you're going to go in on the producing a table to where people look at the table and it's pleasing to look at, you have to have like basically a cinematography degree.
Yeah, exactly.
To understand lighting, camera angles, and stuff like that. And by the way, most people doing this currently for coverage, they don't have those qualifications. So you're learning it all in real time from your own mistakes. And you can't fault somebody from trying something they've never tried before and then learning. Somebody who's like, oh, this is my first time with non-metallic metals, and like, you're like, oh, like, it doesn't look great, but like, they tried it.
Yeah.
You can't make fun of them. You can't hobby shame that guy. They put in real work into trying to figure that technique out, and it doesn't look like Vince Venturalla's or any of these like hobby
Oscar
heroes.
Lars.
Yeah, Oscar Lars. Like, it doesn't look like them, but like, you go, oh man, I can see the beginning of a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
With effort. And a lot of the times, all I want is to know people are trying. This is in my game against people. If you are playing a Cities of Sigmar list, and you're just like, oh yeah, I bought a bunch of hammerers, and I found out hammerers weren't good. These are great sorters, and you just like proxy them. There's no conversion attempts whatsoever. I don't like you. Like, like, I don't see the effort in your army. Like, and that carries through, I think, every step of Age of Sigmar. By the way, don't at me, people who are playing hammerers at great sorters. It was a example. So, like, I just, to see you guys come into this, like, we're gonna do this shoutcasting, we're gonna do this. John, man, I think you handled it really well from my perspective. Like, I think you did really great, because you shared a story early on, and I'm like, I had that same situation where I'm just day two. It wasn't my day one. It was my day two for this 200 person, 150 person, like that big tournament for my first time, where I'm like, okay, I've been TOing for a long time now. I'm going to try to shoutcast. I'm like, my dude got pulled away from my event. So I'm out a guy who's helping me organize. Like, and then trying to like make something good out of something bad or something you didn't plan for. That's a big deal. And I think shoutcasting for Age of Sigmar is worthy. I don't think that any of us have hammered it out quite right yet. No. There's a lot of dead air. Miking players is a good first step in filling dead air.
But I don't think miking players is the solution. But I actually would avoid it.
Exactly. You mic the players, but you have a mute button. Just like we have a cough button in live radio. You have a mute button for your players. Just bing, and then the players don't talk, and then the commentary talks. Because the commentary, again, Age of Sigmar is not again. Age of Sigmar is boring to watch. By the way, I don't.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you know this.
Sort of. Depending. Like if you're watching, if you know what you're looking for, and you're at the table, it's fun to watch. But otherwise, it's long stretches of nothing happening.
Right, and a bunch of movement, and like if you have like two true gamers, by the way, at the table, where like, it's like it's Scorched Earth. There's 8 objectives. we both show up and we like look at each other and we just shift our models all turn one and we don't even move. Like,
boring as fuck.
There is nothing for the casual viewer to go, huh? Like, there's nothing for them to latch onto there. But then, like, you have commentary, like actually color and play-by-play go, oh, these guys are, look at this, they're posturing right now because they know that you can't score until turn 2, so they're just going to set their battle lines a little bit better, and, he's playing against Daughters of Cain on Calibrand instead of Hagnar. They've got the teleport, and this opponent doesn't have the and you filter that information,
making the audience aware of what the players are thinking, because the players can't say it because they don't want to give away their tactics to the opponent, but making the players aware of possibly what's going on in a person's mind so that you see the actual tenseness that's going on instead of the blank airspace.
And you build the narrative. And by the way, you can be wrong.
I gotta interject there though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Having sat right there, we were so close. Like, there was a point where early on, we made like a comment, not even a tactical comment, but just like, oh yeah, this unit coming in, remember they have this. And I instantly saw the opponent like go do one of these.
Yeah.
And like, so, what was that? And I'm like, and
that goes to my comment of we were unable to do as much commentary at LVO because we were so we are physically close to the table. You need to be very much removed. Like at the 40K stream, Reese and Frankie were like 30 feet away from the table.
Yes.
They were completely separate.
They probably had like insane camera coverage too.
Because, the GW stream is really...
Yeah, the GW probably put exactly. All the cameras on this stuff. So that, I mean, you can't... I'm sorry, I think the top-down look on a table is garbage. It tells me nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to move away from that.
It's useful. It's useful to have as an angle.
Yes,
but not your only angle.
Right.
And they took one of our cameras at the live stream, so we actually were supposed to have 3 angles, and then they pulled one of our cameras like right as it started.
That's what happened to
the other stream, and then the boom that they had for the overhead camera wasn't long enough and weighted enough to get all the way over the table. And so that's why, we had this whole back of the head thing. And I kept telling players, like, okay, if you're in the middle, all we're going to see is the back of your head here. So, try to avoid that. But those are like the details that I'm hoping going in next year, not as, again, the guy who was asked to do it, but as the returning guy to have a little more control to at least fix some of those details. And I assure you, I've gotten a lot of feedback. So, and I take these things to heart. It's like my mantra at work with my crew. It's like, I hate to suck, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just about, we all are humans. We all make mistakes. As you pointed out earlier, going into something like this, we're not professionals. I don't have a degree in broadcasting, so I'm learning.
I have one course in broadcasting. I've stretched the shit out of it. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm learning as I go. I'm figuring these things out, and so there's going to be improvement, but you're not going to achieve perfection either, right? And
right.
It is what it is when it comes to that.
Right. And
we lost Garret now.
No, it's fine. It's Turnabout's fair play. No, I think you did really well with what you did with what you.
I appreciate that.
No, man, you crushed it. Again, you had the voice for it. I wanted more of you and less of the players. It was like my only like criticism from the whole. I wanted more of you and less of the players because you've got.
I'll take that to heart for next year.
You've got the voice. I understand the so like with like League of Legends, by the way, the first time I did the shoutcasting for that, our tables were directly behind one team, and the other team's on the other side of the island, and so only one team could hear us casting.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's not like both players at the table, and so you're just like, so now we can't talk about warding at all, because even though we had a delay from the early league. The only way to like shoutcast early league from a non-professional side of things was spectator mode, and spectators on a huge delay. But the ward time was like the big thing, and knowing camp routes and waves and stuff like that, and telling that information was the right amount of information for one team to always have an edge. And so one of the things we did is we moved our teams to the opposite aisles, and so that they weren't on the featured places for the tournament. They were in their like own separate like quadrant. But that was like, I had to fuck that up the first year to know that for the next year.
Yeah, right. We learned by making mistakes. As always they say in gaming, it's like You don't learn by winning.
Yeah. No, you learn the best lessons from your losses, right?
Oh, absolutely. So that's right for me. I'm super excited. Like I said, before I open my big mouth too much, I have not officially been asked to run the stream next year. So, they may decide that whatever is going to happen, but I have offered myself to run it next year. And that was one of the things I should mention is, Dave and Dave are kind of famous for doing the 40K shoutcasting, at least early on. And one of the Daves on the first day actually came over, and he was there literally just like, okay, do you know how to operate everything? Here's my advice. Here's what I've learned. And so it was nice to have this guy who had done it there before just give me a few tips to get started. Again, that voice of experience.
Well, yeah, we got a great question here from Chat Gang. Tomb King Tristan asks, will y'all be doing any kind of practice streaming, and if so, where can he subscribe to that?
Ooh, that's a great question. We haven't really talked about that or anything. I actually have my own multi-camera streaming rig that I've set up in my garage. So I've got 3 4K cameras, and I bring home my computer that I do my streaming at work at home. And so I've created my own live streaming interface or overlay, as we call it, and all of that. So I've done a bunch of that in my garage, but then it gets to, what am I going to do with it? It just kind of sits around on my computer. And a lot of times it's about working out technologies and just kind of figuring things out. So I have no plans to do anything besides our actual audio podcast. And remember, Garret and I are recording the podcast every single week. So
every week. Yeah.
So it's like between hobbying and trying to get at least 1 or 2 games of either 40K or Age of Sigmar in every week. Like my meta hobby is pretty much wrapped up in the wide world of wargaming and our weekly podcast there.
Just like
and I'm sorry, and I'm really happy with how it's going. It's like you talked about having the color guy earlier. I mean, that's definitely who I feel I am on our wide world podcast. Is we got Garret, who is an obvious genius. Knows that you haven't even engaged him with rules in this RantCast, but the man knows rules inside and out. My other 2 partners in there, Jeremy Vessier won the ITC last year. Mm-hmm. Alex Gonzalez, second in the ITC.
Not to be confused with the Alex Gonzalez, by the way.
Well, it's a matter of perspective. From my perspective, this is...
From my perspective, Gonzalez. The Jedi are evil.
Yeah. And if I'm going to talk about the Alex that was second in the ITC versus the Alex that runs one of the major Age of Sigmar tournaments and has done it for many years, I don't know. What I really want to see is both of them. Oh, that's what we should do, Garret. We should invite Alex to come onto our show with Alex. Anyways, so as I was saying, I've got 2 teammates, 2 players, or 2 guys on there. They're the 2 top guys in the IT. I've got Garret, who knows rules inside and out. I don't need to know Jack on that podcast.
Yeah, so you get to be pure commentary and then like osmosis all your information. It's a great place to be in. No, I think there's a worthiness to this practice streaming for shoutcasting. The minors feed the majors, man. You gotta you talk about getting your 2 games of AOS or 40K in a week. You gotta practice your commentary too. It's part of it. You go in cold every time. It's the ring rust, whatever it is. And you're already you talked about having your garage set up. Just get some like locals. Come in, have them play. Turn on your camera. You already know the OBS software. Get a Twitch. Mm-hmm. I'll help you set up a Twitch if you don't have one going yet for yourself.
Got it.
Okay, There you go. Tag it with Wide World of Wargaming, everywhere, so that it feeds into the the work you're already doing, and then boom, just practice commentary. Filling dead air is the most difficult task of shoutcasting.
Yes.
You were able to pad that by having extra player chatter essentially, but honestly, you got to have that cough button like we do in radio, and just boom, hit the cough button, and then just talk about something cooler, because movement is boring.
Sure.
And being able to by the way, one of the things as a commentator that is super liberating, you can be wrong.
Yeah.
It's brilliant to be wrong. When you know a line of play, or you see a line of play developing, and you go, yeah, he set this up, and you go into the shoutcast mode, and you're talking about the lines of play that they have available to them. And I think the best intelligent thing to do here is this. And then, when they do the thing that wasn't what you thought, you get to ham it up. You get to, off the top rope, they grabbed the chair out of nowhere. You can play to your own errors of shoutcasting. It's that's what's beautiful about it, is you're constructing this sort of narrative around a competitive event that's going on. You're weaving this in real time. That's what's great about shoutcasting. That's what
I like what you're saying, man.
Yeah,
you're getting me excited over here. It's a dangerous thing.
Yeah,
you see what he's doing, Garret? Garret knows me well enough to know how dangerous your line of discussion is right now. Like, Garrett's sitting there going, God damn it, John, don't do it. Don't you drag me in.
He's muted right now. He's fucking muted, and
shit! Yeah, I muted myself. Yeah, sorry.
What was great is this is something you're not gonna catch in the audio format, so please go back and watch it on YouTube. But he was in real time pointing, and his lip syncing was up with exactly what you were saying. It was amazing. It was amazing. So,
yeah, sorry.
welcome back.
I forgot I muted myself because I had to go take. And so, yeah, a couple of things. First, John, I'm not scared. I actually am excited for you to get into streaming because I know you, and I know that you will when you start something, you take it to the extreme and you do it right, and you never want to do So you will only do something if you can do it right, and so I'm excited to see what comes out of your streaming stuff.
Thank you.
I do want.
This conversation just got more dangerous.
Yeah, right. Because I'm very interested in the streaming realm myself, because I think that's the way that we can get people really excited internationally about these kinds of things. So I do want to roll back a bit because I had to go take my dog potty and I missed some things, but I want to go back to things I want to improve. Sorry, I was reading chat, gang, Mr. Mephisto.
Yeah, no, you're good. Dude. Yeah, it's his turn too. No, you got the floor, man.
Yeah. I first want to say that I don't want to bash Frontline or anything. We were kind of given the hand we were dealt. And there's a lot of technology things I would love. And so it comes to, but all that costs money is the reality. I would love if we had the ability to
third camera.
Fourth camera, even just more cameras.
You had someone with a steady cam walking around the tables. You had GoPros on all your players, right? You want that stuff.
Yeah, I would love that. The other thing is I would love to have on the stream and have that technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that technology exists. I've seen the Honest Wargamer use it. I've seen other people use it, but I don't know how expensive that is. I don't know what technology is required. I haven't done my research, but I would love that. But the reality is that a lot of those tools, unless John brings it out or I break out my wallet and I bring it out, it's up to Frontline to buy and get all these things set up. And it's unfair of me to say hey, Reese, just buy all this stuff for this AOS stream that you're not running. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know how to have that. That's a interesting thing. Hi, John,
and welcome back. No, I think there's there are 2 points here. One, I think Rob is more than willing. His modus operandi, his drive is T-Sports, right? Yeah. I think he's more than willing to share with Rob from the Honest Wargamer, by the way. I think he's more than willing to share the shortcut, the mistakes he's already made and learned from. I think he's more than willing to share that information.
Yeah, but my point isn't so much as I'm wondering what sort of hardware and paid software would be required, which means that Frontline would have to foot that bill. Fair enough. And it's unfair of me to say, hey, Frontline, here's all these things.
Because you are hinged to Frontline. This is one of the detriments of being sort of first party, right? You're directly hinged to the Frontline, as opposed to Mr. Mephisto run tournament where it's just all on whoever's throwing money at me to do whatever the fuck I want. You have to pay the piper with
yeah. And so it's like it's Frontline's event, and so I don't want to step too much on their toes about things I would want to improve. Like I don't want to like bash them in a way. I don't want to make them like it. They gave us a great opportunity, and I really appreciate that they gave John everything they had. But there are some technology things and hardware things that I wish were different to run a better stream. So there's that. The other point is actually from a software standpoint. I as a software developer, there's actually a lot of things that I would love to do in a stream, but they require some things. And one of the big things is I would love if Age of Sigmar had consistency in mission and packet design. Because from a software perspective, I would love to make applications for player-based self-scoring so you could have live streaming of event data to a stream. One
so
of the
you
big
could see the readouts immediately in like the overlay type thing.
Yes, exactly. So for example, where this happened was at the Pro Tabletop $10,000 Atlanta Open event. They did this whole spiel. So what they did though is they had the ITC Battles app, which was used to score ITC missions in real time. And ITC missions are built in a way where you score points over time, and you can get points in through secondaries and stuff. And so they made it so that anything scored in ITC battles auto synced to their streaming tools, so they could do a bunch of cool things. The game they were streaming, they were able to show how many points people got in each secondary, what the current point was per turn, how many command points each player had, and they were able to give this information to the audience. And on top of that, they had all the live scores per round by round of every game in the entire event. So you could have a ticker of like, oh, this table is currently 15-24. And you're able to see that. And then maybe they could they had 3 different tables being streamed. So
cut to the other tables, yeah.
Yeah, but it was cool that you're able to see live scores and like live information about the thing. So like in Age of Sigmar, I would love it if there was a consistency in mission and packet design. Like if we were using the LVO pack, for example, where they had a army objective, a mission objective, and a battle plan, hidden agenda and a battle plan objective. If those things could be brought in, like if people could just input that information to an app, live given to a stream, and then the audience can see, oh, this guy took these objectives, has he scored it yet, like how many points does he currently have, how many command points does each side have, like,
building a narrative, like, by the way, a
exactly
dirty narrative.
But see, that's the thing is I wish that there I wish I could build an app that would be consistent in all Age of Sigmar tournaments in the way missions were played out. I know, exactly. Like that's where the thing is, like but you're asking like how things could improve. As a developer, I'm like, there's an easy software solution, but the logistics are impossible given the current playfield.
May I?
Yeah.
So like some of that doesn't need to be solved as a dirty curmudgeon entertainer. Some of that doesn't need to be solved by software as much as like fuck technology. Yeah, I mean a man in the field type or woman in the field type thing can do that for you. You can actually have a human with a microphone going.
Humans make mistakes.
True story, but when you're building a narrative and tension in the moment and stuff, like it almost doesn't matter. Like you just we're over on table 3 and person's doing the thing, and then like they say the information, and then you just input the data and put it on your overlay. You can do some shortcuts in the meantime while you develop the technology to get a better.
Yes, I agree, and
right.
Like that's where I'm at. But it's like obviously as a software engineer, I want to have software.
Oh no, I know you're just
like,
I know.
It's like I'm coming out of logistically, and it's like
I should be able to fix this
so hard.
I should be able to fix this with technology.
Exactly.
A program. No, I get it, dude. I know. So I went for English lit, but I should have went for fucking computer programming. I built my first computer when I was 12 years old. A GeForce 2 was the sought after hardware piece at the time. Like to date myself a little bit. I know we've come a long way. No, there's things that you're talking about where I go, hell yeah, you know, like right. I'm super into it with like having a software that like it essentially feeds a secondary program or a secondary run of the application, you know, in the real time. But you can just focus on what you have on screen and just make that. You go on?
Yeah, but the other point is that it's like if you had you could see information outside of the current game you're streaming. You can get tickers about other tables, about their current scores going on. And I just wish there was something we could do with that, but it would require cooperation to have everybody want to play a single mission design, which I know is at this point never going to happen.
It's gross. Disgusting. Why are you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's a lot of reasons I want a
I know. From the software side of things.
No, even outside of software, just playing an Age of Sigmar. I mean, we're so close.
You're talking about the universal pack, right? Now, is this what we're?
Yeah,
we're
basically.
We've tried this before, haven't we? And just like Ian's got one. Like he wrote a like a consistent pack. I think the quirks of Age of Sigmar are part of what make it so great. And this is I respect I truly respect it. I came in wanting the pack. When I came into, I don't think I changed my perspective. I think the landscape changed underneath me. By the way, I came in wanting like the same pack for every event and all these things, and then I played in like, I don't know, like 8 tournaments in 8 months, and I saw the flavor of every event in every region and all this stuff, and it made me a believer in that. Even like Jeremy Cooper in Texas, they have their Texas Masters scene, where every essentially like major region has their own tournaments, and like they only have a couple like vague requirements from being a Texas Masters event, and then they let the TOs kind of like take over, and then they all come together as one council to elect what their Masters tournament is. And I'm like, part of Age of Sigmar's personality, it's putting your own personality in your models, in the army you choose to play. Like you could take the most whack person in the world, they're still going to gravitate to one whack list over another, because it comes down to their personality. Like you could have just like, say, Iron Jaws is the most competitive, just S tier garbage in the world, and then on the flip side of it, like Seraphon is equally as garbage over the top, right? Like in a weirdo argument's sake. And you're gonna have those only care about winning LVO people go, I hate lizards, and they're gonna go and play, orcs. Like I think that putting your personality into your army, putting your personality into your sculpts, putting your personality into your lists, taking I see this all the time in Australia, where they pick a unit that's just suboptimal by the numbers, but they fucking make it work for them because it's part of their personality.
I mean, I've done the same thing. I take Manfred in my Legion of Night lists just because I fucking love Manfred.
I just threw my pen. Yeah. Fuck Manfred. No,
well, fuck you. I love the guy. Like, I think he's awesome. And I love the model. I like Manfred, and I'll bring him no matter what.
Yeah, I understand. No, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Is that the personality throughout this every step of the way, from our models to our lists to the events we go to the TOs that run those events. Those quirks are part of what, to me, make Age of Sigmar so fantastic. If it's by the numbers, for me, it loses some of that luster. Why do I like EDH over Legacy? I made cash money playing Legacy, by the way. Like, more money than I'll ever make playing Age of Sigmar. Like, it's seeing people's personality in the game. I don't know anything about you based on your deck at a Magic the Gathering tournament. I have no clue. I walk up to the table against the average opponent. You're fucking bringing Seraphon. I go one of two things. Like, this guy's onto like some new hotness I don't know, or they really love their lizards. Like, and like, I love that part of it. I love the social part of the game that we talked about earlier.
It's a big part of it. And one thing I would say there is that as a TO, that's also part of our hobby, right? Like when I'm running an event, I'm exchanging.
Welcome back, by the way.
Playing in the event. Oh, well, had to take a little break of the voice.
Turnabout's fair play. Continue.
I'm taking a break from playing in the game to run this event. Well, that packet, the time I spend to craft that packet is part of my hobby. I mean, for me, even, the time I spend to, design the custom lighted trophies that I give away at all my events.
I can't help but notice a bird. I can't help but notice a bird there. You dirty, filthy Zinch player.
No. That's my tournament organization is Firehead Productions.
Yeah, look at him trying to cover up the fact that he's a whack Siege player.
Fire helmet. And then this logo, a friend of ours, Casey Dunn's daughter, basically randomly like saw the name of Firehead Productions, I guess. And so she just sent, Casey sent it to me, but she created this graphic and sent it to me. And I said, hey,
it's pretty great.
Like,
actually.
can I use that as my logo for my company? And he goes, yeah. She said, great. And actually sent me an email with official permission to use it and all that. And so, yeah. So for me, it's building this tournament. By the way, I don't have any batteries in them, but they're all lighted. So I get lighted tournament trophies out. And then I designed the packet. And then there's things in the packet that I feel are my way of sharing with the players things that are important to me. Like I talk about the above table game. Well, when I design a packet, one of the things that I do is I have a self-score sportsmanship.
Ooh.
So my sportsmanship is a series of 6 binary questions. Did you bring your rules? Did you print out your list? Did you play fairly? Did you play in a timely manner? Are all of your models painted? And when you say no to any of those, you subtract from yourself a point, and it's up to 6 points, which is typically a quarter of your possible score for the round. Mm-hmm. So, and it's always interesting because it's self-score. So it's not like, oh, I don't like you, so I'm going to give you a thumbs down. It's, you have people going up there and saying like, man, I'm a really good player and I brought this hard list and this guy was a noob, so I'm going to take away a sport. So it's like, no, that's not what it's about. But people do these funny little things in there. And certainly it encourages you. It's like, well, no, it's a local tournament. So if you want to bring an unpainted model to test it out, I guess that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But you're going to take a penalty in the form of a sportsmanship point because that's part of my social contract with the other players. Absolutely. Is bringing that fully painted army so that we can all, immerse ourselves in this game.
Yeah.
And so that's the things that like I would not want to ever lose that. And though, as far as I know, I'm the only guy doing that, but I'm passionate about
that one thing.
The right way to
that
do
thing.
It.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And there's the thing is like you're gonna find a player that resonates really strongly with your event, right? Like your event is the best event because those exact quirks that you have as a TO are their things that they like gravitate towards. And and I'm not disparaging the hard as nails TO pack, ABC thing because there are people out there who just want that chess game of Age of Sigmar. Like some of my best games are against my opponents just playing. We're just like I walk up at the table and we shift our models on turn 1 and I go, oh, we're playing this type of Age of Sigmar game. Like we don't like no one runs across the table up to the mid objective turn 1 and I'm like, oh, we're playing a real game right now. Okay, cool. Like I stroke my beard and I point the goatee and then we play a little bit different. Like but I'm able to like personally like shift gears. Not everybody can. You're gonna find those other players. So I don't like the idea of a homogenized pack whatsoever. But Garret, man, I feel like I need to let you talk. You need to.
No. I mean, like I think I've said my piece. I respect your opinion.
Fair enough.
I disagree.
You're right on.
I know I'm coming from a software developer, logician, whatever perspective. I like the idea of consistency, so everybody knows the same game they're playing. And that's just my point. I would like a consistent back.
My hard counterpoint to that,
Garret,
variety of packets creates variety of meta. When you have the same packet everywhere, then the same best things defeat and are optimized in those messages.
And that's actually why I don't like a variety of packets, because I would prefer if we had a universally understood meta.
Like a predictive meta where you're
like... predictive meta. So we could try to improve the game as a whole by understanding what works in the game, rather than like certain things perform well over here because these packets are this way, while over here these things perform well, and then you have these weird stats that it's like, why is this army doing well when it does poorly everywhere else? Oh, because the mission designs here actually benefit this army. And so I would actually prefer, to your point, that there's a singular pack that we can have armies. We know how well an army is going to do because the game is supposed to be played this way, or I like consistency so everyone knows what's going on. And
Right.
yes,
I feel like
hashtag read the pack.
you guys are gonna do a podcast on this after the fact, where you just like duke it out for who's the supreme wide.
Sadly, we only have an hour for a cast,
Yeah.
and so it will.
And we have other issues to duke out, like
Yes, no, I'm
philosophies on scoring granularity.
Win-loss strength of schedule, John. Get rid of secondary. Win-loss strength of schedule, John. Let's get rid of those secondaries.
Man, this is great. This is great.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to say, of all the wide world of wargaming people you brought on, me and John are probably the most polar opposite.
This is awesome, though. I think this is made.
Yeah,
it's made for great conversations, like honestly throughout the whole thing. And RantCast isn't telling anybody who's listening to it how to fucking think. That's the. I don't want to be one of those virtue signalers.
I don't either.
I have my perspective. I have had 3 guests of 3 different, or it's 2 guests of 2 different perspectives and my third perspective. Pick out what you've heard tonight, whatever resonates with you, and gravitate towards that. And I hope that you just get information around whatever's going on. Like if you like what my elevated beer and pretzels vibe, or the excellence of execution, or the straight stats, straight logistics, like whatever it is, like pick what it is for you. And the thing is, as long as we have a common ground to approach, the table is a pretty good common ground with our armies and our rules that are all written, and we all like agree are the rules that we play by. Then you get to hash it out. That's the beauty of this game.
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing I think we all can agree on. If you're going to a major, you need to be no exception.
I'm sorry. You need to repeat that.
I've said one thing that we all can agree on. Like I will come straight from a pure like stats. Everyone's got to win. Your models still need to be painted to a tabletop standard. If you're going to a major GT, I don't care. Like we're playing a hobby game. If you don't want to paint your models, like play a video game, play chess. Like we play Age of Sigmar because we want to see cool shit on the table in the game we like.
Look at this weird stats man just draw the line in the sand around the hobby. Isn't
yeah,
that
I'm
awesome?
Sorry. Like,
I mean, like contrast paints. There's no excuses. For
exactly. There's no excuses anymore.
All right, so I think we've got a great substantial rantcast here. The year going forward. So this was kind of your bookend, but also your kickoff to a new year. Mm-hmm. What do you guys expect in a year going forward? It could be releases, it could be tournament wise. Garret, you kind of got stifled a little bit by us just naysaying everything you believe in. What do you want? What do you want in the year going forward for Age of Sigmar?
I would love if the release schedule would slow the fuck down and we could get more FAQs to help clean up a lot of the sloppy language that came out of this last accelerated schedule of books. That would be my ultimate hope. And then from a tournament's perspective, I just hope every event gets more people. Like, I just hope people realize that tournament players aren't scary. We're not all win at all costs assholes. We want to have fun and beer. Honestly, tournament players do drink beer and eat pretzels while they play. We just happen to win. We just want to play in a setting where you have a winner based off some score at the end. But like, I want people to come and just go to a tournament to play 6 really good games. Like, you're not always going to play against some guy who's going to just want to destroy you and not have fun. Honestly, most of the people there are going to have a lot of fun. Like, go to Adepticon, play in their major tournament. They got the team tournaments. Go to LVO, go to Nova, go to the big events. Let's get these events getting big numbers with lots of people playing. That's what I would love.
Nice. Very nice. I all I would say there is, as I go through the year, all the stuff Garret said, like I'll agree with that. I enjoy this. Personally, I want to see more people playing. And to build off what you were talking about tournaments, Garret, I always like to say, when you come to the RTT on Saturday, there's no magic, super whack tournament players that crawl out of the sewers to come play. It's just the same people that were there on Wednesday for game night.
Yeah,
they just happen to be playing 3 rounds together on a Saturday. And so, that would be my thing, is if you haven't played in tournaments, don't be afraid. Go to a tournament. It's going to be fun. It's going to be And if you haven't been to the LVO, then go and take an art class and see how awesome it is. Like, I'll tell you, I went to Nova 3 years ago for the first time, took some art classes, met Duncan. It was awesome. And then went back last year and competed in the championships and had a great time.
I love that we have Duncan Unchained, by the way. It's been the best thing.
Yes, Duncan is now Unchained.
Unchained.
Here's my small Duncan story to go with. I take the class. My wife and I take the class. We hit it off with Duncan. We're having great conversation. We're about to go tour DC on the Monday, and I stop into the restaurant to get a coffee real quick, and Duncan is grabbing his breakfast, and he goes, "Oh, hey, mate, what are you up to? What are you guys doing?" And I go, "Oh, hey, we're going to go, we have a few hours, we're going to go explore DC, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I was wanting to do something like that, too." And I looked at him, and I go, "Oh, yeah, that sounds great. You have fun, man. We'll see you later." And I left, and my wife goes, "John, you realize that he was just hinting that you should invite him to join us to go see the rest of DC." And I'm like, oh, you're right.
I hope you ran back in immediately.
No, it was too late.
Oh.
See, that would have been a perfect John story where you go to invite Duncan out to go explore DC.
And then suddenly it's 3 a.m. and they're all like blasted off their ass off good whiskey. Like,
yeah, like that would have been a perfect John story.
I'm so disappointed. I have never been more disappointed in a RantCast guest than I am right now.
I accept that. My wife was disappointed. My friends that were with me were disappointed. Everybody was like, "Why didn't you just make that happen?" Like, that's the whole reason we keep you around, is to make stuff like that happen, John.
There could have been call girls. It could have been over the top. Oh my god.
He might still be working for GW had I taken.
I know, the butterfly effect. Like, who knows? No, I'm loving Duncan Unchained. It's great because like what I'm seeing is a guy who's just passionate actually about models, not specifically like GW.
Yeah,
models.
exactly.
And so like he gets to live his full passion now, and it's fucking great. And that's really what RantCast is about. Like, what's your passion? And we try to align it with Age of Sigmar, but sometimes we talk about like the American Chestnut instead. So, is there do you have any things to say about like Pointy Elves or Sons of Bahamut?
Well, I mean, we're gonna get 12 books this year. So
really, you think
like,
so?
I don't
we're
know,
on pace for 12 books.
Like we're at 13. Yeah, we're gonna go 13. Yeah, I get these Skaven number. Like Pointy Elves, as far as what we've seen, to me, they look like high elves, like, which is awesome.
It's what they want.
Exactly, that's what people wanted. The Pointy Elves look like high.
Yeah,
Sons of Bahamut is like people have been asking for a Gargant faction forever. I'm happy to see Seraphon get a book so we can finally have every current army be updated to the modernized standard. Although I would like to see Nurgle, Daughters of Cain, Idoneth Deepkin, and Legions of Nagash get that same treatment, just so we can get everything 2.0 rather than have a couple of 1.5 books.
Yeah.
But that's,
there's
fucking wish listing.
There's a hot
take. Like that's wish listing like crazy right
there.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm so desensitized to books coming out at this point. It's like, oh, look at these books, and I was like, all right, just bring them on. Just give me the books.
It's the flood, and like I still follow 40K, so I'm actually in a double flood of literature. I mean, I hazard to think how much I actually spend on literature and books from GW, but I suspect I might spend more on paper than plastic with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that tracks. All right. Man, this has been unbelievable. Thanks so much for that follow there. Anytime I get my radio voice opportunity, I got to use it. Man, this was a blast. Thank you both for coming on, even though you're the polar sides of your respective club and or content there. So real quick, Garret, if people want to at you over your dirty opinions on consistent packs, or talk about how adorable your doggo is, where do they hit you up at?
I mean, you can get me on Twitter at gmulroney, GMUL at Gmail. I mean, I don't post much, but you can at me. I've been trying the new Twitter game. I mean, I'm like literally. When I was looking up jobs, software engineers was number 7 on top 10 jobs for people who don't like people.
There you go.
So I don't really.
I'm glad you play the most social game I can think of.
Right? Yeah. Yes, but I mean, you can find me on Facebook. If you in Wargaming, my Facebook is basically a giant Wargaming community hub.
There you go.
But I mean, if you want to hear me, listen to the Wide World Wargaming podcast, where I will be talking every week for an hour, spouting my awful stat-based logician opinions
and correcting my incorrect.
I don't think it's awful. I've enjoyed talking to you, Garret.
So that's where you honestly, the Wide World of Wargaming would be about me. If you wish to hit me up, Twitter at @gmulroney is a great way to find me and talk to me. If you want pictures of my puppy, I will gladly send them to you because I have plenty. Yeah.
There you go. And John, where do people get at you?
Sure. So much like Garret, I'm exploring the Twitter game. So you can find me at Zez2key, just like it says on the stream there. You can replace the Zez2key with a Zez2ku, and that's my YouTube channel, which does have some stuff on adding LEDs to models, as well as lots of aquariums. I got a full Tool concert if you're into rock and roll.
Hell yeah, Tool. Maynard James Keenan is my personal Jesus.
Oh, I wish, I just saw them. I actually met.
Did you get some Cataduceus wine?
Yeah, well, so my wife and I got to go to the sound check when they played the week before the LVO. And at the end of the sound check, they weren't really talking to anybody, but my wife goes, hey, when are you going to, to Adam, hey, when are you going to make some, I really enjoyed some of the work you did. And he stopped and turned around and came back and talked to my wife about horror movies and their love of horror movies and lamenting how he doesn't have time to make any more movies. And then he left and did his thing. So it was, I mean, I guess I didn't really meet him, but my wife did while I stood there going,
I'm so mad.
You're talking to him.
So mad.
I'm telling you, this guy is full of just every opportunity.
How do we become best
so you
friends?
can find the Tool concert at Zez2ku on you can go to Facebook and you can find my Firehead Productions if you're out on the West Coast and want to do tournaments. And of course, the Wide World of Wargaming is our current platform.
All right, so I'm going to give you a last moment. Any big soapbox, digital soapbox moment? You gotta rant in your soul. Or are we good tonight?
Well, you can find Wide World of Wargaming on Apple Podcasts, Podbean.
There you
go. All the major ones, and we're not on YouTube because we don't do video. So, and getting video on adding video to an audio channel is a bitch and a half.
It's such an annoying. It's weird to go the other way, isn't it? It's just really annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will finish with my then small rant that just says, when you're drinking whiskey and you're trying a new whiskey, you take one sip, a second sip, and then a third sip, blowing out so the alcohol doesn't kill your palate. And that third sip is where you get the true taste of the whiskey. There
you go. Whiskey meta. You've learned tonight. Thank you, everybody. Good night, chat gang. You are the show within the show. Thank you for keeping us honest. John, Garret, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
No problem.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.